Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Everybody, and welcome to a brand new week of Spaced Out Radio tonight, where we're getting into the paranormal, supernatural, shadow people, triangles all over the world. Mike Ricksecker, paranormal investigator extraordinaire, best-selling author, will be with us tonight talking all things spooky and wooful. Dirty Filth is here for the cartoons, as well as we got a great show kicking off the Halloween fever in just a couple weeks' time with Mike Ricksecker. Let's say hello to everyone in our audience so far tonight. In the gold medal position, Logan L. We have Race Fan taking home the silver. By the way, Race Fan, I'll give you a new tip. This tip is just for you. All right. When I post the websites, I am now posting the StreamYard links on YouTube. Okay. So that way the people could get notified. So they are being done way, 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 way early. So who else do we have here? We have Third Rock in for the bronze medal. We have Kathleen Hughes and B. Paradox Fossils is here. Paradox will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. D. Cohen, good to have you here. Thanks for coming on in. Good morning, Tracy Spot. Gildo, how you doing, buddy? Good to have you back. Ann Palmer, Jules, nice to see you both. Hi, John Swan and Pam Smith. Paramarv, good to have you back. Hey, Kevin, thanks for coming on in. Hi, Jenny. Nice to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. Search and Destroy. How you doing? Jim Christie. And from Pattaya, Sweden, starting on defense, number 19, Lars Janssen. There he is. Brown Dwarf, how you doing? Good to have you here. Lee Booker, good to see you. Shiro Sounds, or is it Cairo Sounds? I think it's Shy for Chicago. Either way, Shiro is going to be signing autographs for the first time tonight. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Invisible Tracker, good to see you. And Magnus Vermagnuson, good morning. W. David Page, Mitchell Darling, Kurt M. Dirty Filth, good to have you all here. Hi, Pixie Lara, good morning to you. Moon Freedom and Millennium, Mr. Catfish, thank you for joining us. Penman and Donna Spencer, good to see you all. Thank you for joining us. Midwest Night Watchers, good to have you back. Alice Elkins, welcome from British Columbia. You're in Illinois. Good morning to you, or good evening. Yeah, it's still evening there. Be the Arrow, nice to see you. Thank you for coming on in. As we continue on with our roll call tonight. And there's Jessica S. Gansfeld Files, good to see you. Lucy Bell, thank you for joining us tonight. And who else do we have? Beelzebrad, good to have you back. Digger Dog. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Nikki in Seattle, how are you, my favorite psychic? Good to see you. Cryptid 559er, nice to have you here. Chillgasm, welcome from Colorado. And Rui from Portugal, good to see you. And we are all caught up on the names so far. Let's get the radio side going here. There she be. And that side's going, which is good. And big thank you to everybody who has lately supported us. We are just 808 people away from 20,000 on YouTube. So thank you so much to all of our listeners and new subscribers. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Hi, 405er. Thumbs up, thumbs down, and a comment after the show if you don't mind. It really helps with our algorithms and growing this channel. So we really do appreciate it. I'm Michael Fontaine. Uriel Perez, how are you, my friend? And yeah, if you haven't recently, I know some of you have, there is swag at our Spaced Out Radio website at spacedoutradio.com. We got great t-shirts and other gear for you. So go get yourself into our stuff. And don't forget to take that picture for me so we can put it on our website. We would appreciate it. Good morning, Dirt Road. Why do I keep saying good morning? God damn it, it's evening time. Good evening, Dirt Road. Good evening. Dim. How are you? Nice to see you. We got 15 seconds here. Thurston Howell III. Hope Lovey's doing nice. So, yeah, I appreciate you coming on in. Bill WD40 looking beautiful over in the Spreaker chat room. Good evening, Bill. 3 seconds, people. Let's get the horns up. Super chat is open. Let's run. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Pill's Newswire, checking out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a fantastic show of all things paranormal tonight. Author Mike Ricksecker is here to talk about all sorts of spookiness from around the world. And, of course, in hour 3, Swamp Dweller's going to be here for another spooky story. Tim Senor brings in the UFO report. Shirky Poo has the news. Let's get right to it. Busy show tonight as author Mike Ricksecker, who's a best-selling author on Amazon for some of his books like A Walk in the Shadows, A Complete Guide to Shadow People, 8 historic paranormal books, and the esoteric tome Alaska's Mysterious Triangle. He's been all over television. Why? Because when you see the hair of this guy, there is never a strand that goes uncombed. Yeah, Mike also produces his own internet supernatural-based shows on Haunted Road Media YouTube channel and is the producer-director of the docuseries The Shadow Dimension, which is available on several streaming platforms. This man's been doing this for almost 20 years, and I will tell you, he is literally one of the best and the most hardest worker that I know of in the paranormal realm. He's everywhere. He deserves the fame and fortune that he is making, because when you put in the effort, you deserve good things happening to you. And that's our man, Mike Ricksecker. How you doing, Mike? It's always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me back, Dave. And, I really appreciate the compliment about the hair. I have to laugh because it's one of those things. When I was a kid, 11, 12 years old, I was actually teased relentlessly for my hair. So I appreciate it, my friend.
And we mean it all in a sweet compliment. You know that.
Oh, I know. It's all good. So I just gotta laugh though.
Well, as someone who just chopped about 9 inches off my own hair, and I'm back to the shortness of life here on top of my head,
How's it feel to lose that much hair? That's a lot.
Relieving. I can wear a ball cap again.
Nice.
I haven't been able to wear a ball cap in a couple of years because my hair was so thick that if I put a hat on, it would just raise on up and eventually fall off.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
Now that I have the ability to actually wear a ball cap again, I'm pretty happy about that. Pretty happy about it.
Which is Mike, why you're wearing one tonight.
Exactly. This is actually, believe it or not, the hat I will be buried in. I stole this hat. This is an old Labatt's Blue beer hat. And my dad got this when he was, back in his younger days when he was very highly involved in sports in our town. And
Oh,
yeah, and one of the liquor reps gave him this hat. I just fell in love with it, so I stole it from my dad. And this hat has been lost more times than found. Uh, and it has been in lakes and oceans and rivers all over the West Coast here. And it is beat up. It's the original color is a navy blue.
oh
It's
wow.
faded. It's faded so much. It's held together with electrical tape in the back, but it's my favorite hat that I
Yeah,
own.
you gotta hang on to those favors.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I will be, the day I go into the crematorium, I will be wearing this hat.
Nice.
It's not going anywhere without me.
No,
So
that's fantastic.
I don't wear it often now because it is thinning and it is falling apart,
Mhm.
but sometimes it just feels good to put the old lid on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I appreciate you wearing that tonight during this particular show.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah.
No worries. Mike, I'm serious when I say I think you're one of the hardest workers in the paranormal. You are everywhere. If you're not writing books, you're on television series. And if you're not on television series, you're doing documentaries. And if you're not doing documentaries, you're doing radio hits and hits for television channels like Gaia and other series and shows out there. I mean, how have you become one of those premier faces and voices of the paranormal?
It's just consistency, really, and honestly, Dave, I think that I'm still, working at my craft. There's a lot of goals that I still want to meet, a lot of research that I'm still undertaking, a lot of secrets that I'm still trying to uncover. So I feel like, I'm still not to where I'm trying to go, but I'm along the journey somewhere. And it's just one of those things where, every single day I get up and I just keep doing. And I think that's really what it takes. There are some people that they catch a break. Yeah, they were in the right place at the right time, and maybe they've only been involved for a couple of years, and then boom, all of a sudden they have their own television show or whatever. And that's great. That's fantastic. I'm happy for them. But for a lot of people, it is years and years and years of consistent work. And I've seen a lot of people come and go over the years that they were in it for a little while and they got burned out, and I can completely understand from that. There's plenty of times where I have felt burned out because, and people will ask me, "How do you get so much done during the day?" And my answer is, I don't sleep much, which is very true. I'll get a limited amount of sleep, which is not the healthiest thing in the world, but it's there are goals that I'm trying to make and trying to get to, and ultimately it comes down to um, either one, helping people realize that they're not alone in all of this, that we've all had these different types of experiences, and whether it's me or other people that I've talked to and I can relate the story, and two, passing on knowledge. There's a lot of these whether it's lost history or esoteric knowledge that's kind of being uncovered now that we need to pass on to the next generation. Now it's up to the next generation to pick up the mantle and keep going forward with it, but I believe that one of the things that we should be doing here is the knowledge that we acquire, pass it on to the next generation, because humanity has this propensities for these recurring cycles of making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So let's try to prevent that from happening and help the next generations in the future.
Mike, how do you do that when the paranormal field, much like the UFO world and the cryptid world, have a real reputation of being selfish when it comes to evidence, when it comes to knowledge, whether it comes to maybe potentially getting close to solving some of these mysteries? I mean, we all want answers, especially in the paranormal. I mean, for me, if you're not looking after, the answers of what happens after we die, why are you doing this? Like that's just my own selfish mode of questioning there. But how do we accomplish that, sharing of evidence and sharing of knowledge when, there's a lot of ego that goes into this field because very few make it, but many want to have those positions.
Yeah, and It's unfortunate too, because there's a lot of times where we're sitting down at an event, maybe we're, having a drink after, the speaking engagements are over and we're just hanging out. And all of a sudden it becomes like this mini think tank. And all of a sudden, these different ideas are flowing back and forth. And that sparks some wonderful ideas. But you do see plenty of people that are holding on to, maybe they have a fantastic piece of paranormal evidence or what have you, that they're holding on to. They don't want to show the world because, and I've heard people say this, they're waiting for some sort of television producer to come along and then they will present this piece of evidence for them, and they're really not understanding the way that that particular industry works. Yeah, that's they're not looking for, oh, this person grabbed this, this specific piece of evidence, and so boom, we're gonna grab you now. It's more of they'll troll YouTube. So they're looking for, how do you present on camera, or do you have a cool story to tell? That it really comes down to the storytelling. And oh, by the way, do you have a piece of evidence that goes along with that story? It's the evidence part that comes along later rather than at the forefront. But people will hold on to that piece of evidence thinking that's going to get them the stardom. And in a lot of cases, it's almost like an afterthought with these different television shows. So it's like, just go ahead and put it out there for the world, because what will happen is, as if you put it up on YouTube or wherever it is, as you are telling the story, that's what's going to get noticed.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, we need to tell more stories, but have you ever had in your hands smoking gun evidence of something so rich that you're just like, man, I don't know if I really want to release this. This is too good for the public.
I mean, I've always presented everything. Yeah, you can go back. You can go back through the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel, and when we came across, here's a blatant shadow person walking across the gym. Boom, that went up. Fantastic, ball of light at Black Bear Church, or the white wisp that we caught at the Stone Lion Inn. Boom, boom, that stuff went right up. I never really held on to anything because I was just excited to show it and share it with the world. And here's something that's really interesting. What do you think? And it gets a conversation going. It gets a dialogue going. And it's what I initially think of a piece of evidence, or maybe it's a personal experience that happened at a particular location. While I might have an initial idea of what I think that is, it could take a conversation later on with, a few of us kind of going back and forth. What do you think? Well, I have this idea here, or, there's, this scientific theory here that might adhere to that. And, somewhere down the road, you might actually rethink your position on it and come up with a much better conclusion as to what happened. But that doesn't happen until you get actually talking with people.
Yeah, and the stories are out there. It's a matter of what does the public want? Because here's the thing. I like those stories, Mike, that come from small town.
Mhm.
That's what interests me. I'm not interested in Brushy Creek. I'm not interested in the insane asylums or Gettysburg or anything like that. As somebody who has a real, interest in this field, there's one thing that I panic over, and that is death. I hate it.
Okay.
Scares the daylights out of me, even though I know I'm on the downside of the slope in life, at 49 going on 50 here next year. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. So there's a couple things that I miss about the paranormal. Number one, there are very few people here who are actually searching for answers. We seem to be seeking a lot of evidence without searching for answers. And number two,
Mhm.
I don't think we're expanding our areas enough to get some of those beautiful stories from a lot of these small towns that are maybe dying off, or don't really want a lot of public hearings, but they have some strange things going on. And those are all around here in North America, let alone the world. But let's focus on North America. I want those stories, man, because those are usually the best ones that nobody has ever heard of. It's fresh, it's new, it's exciting. What's your thoughts on both of those?
Yeah, you make a great point that a lot of times people are more concerned with showing the evidence, getting a bunch of views on YouTube, that sort of thing. If they're actually going to go ahead and show the evidence, because like you mentioned before, a lot of people hold on to it. But a lot of times, yeah, people are just looking for views and that sort of thing, rather than actually try to, deduce what exactly is going on here. And that's where a lot of my research is focused, into actually getting down to, okay, what happened in this particular incident. Um, but when it comes to small towns, uh, yeah, I mean, I love small towns. I kind of prefer living in small towns. I don't like being right in the downtown of the city, and it's a lot of hustle and bustle and um, pollution and things like that. So I prefer the fresh air and the little bit of a you know quieter lifestyle. But you get a lot of interesting stories out there too. You have those legends within the town, the urban tales, and you have a lot of old historic homes in small towns that cities will just bulldoze them, knock them down because they got to put up some big skyscraper or something. But the small towns hang on to those older homes and the old inn or the old cafe or something like that, which has a lot of rich history associated with it. It's been there for 150 years, and maybe somebody like Abraham Lincoln or Babe Ruth caught a cup of coffee there one time. So that's the cool little piece of history that goes along with it. But then it has all the ghost tales as well, and that's living history right there. And those people's tales have been, in a lot of cases, lost to time. I think it's another thing that, as a paranormal investigator, that we do is that we help to bring those lives to light, and those people whose voices have been lost to time now have their voices reanimated for the modern masses.
And I think you put it absolutely beautiful. These urban myths and these urban stories really need to start projecting themselves, and we have to do a better job of getting out there and telling those tales rather than just focusing on whatever on. But I mean, you also brought up a good point there, Mike, about clicks. It's all about clicks. It's all about subscriptions and subscribers and back channels and social media following and TikTok. I mean, have we literally forgotten in the paranormal what we're all about because we are more attracted to clicks and subscriptions and subscribers than anything else right now?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to make a blanket statement that, if that's what everybody's doing, but you do see a lot of it happening where um, a lot of people are, interested in jump scares. Make a video where, um, we're down a spooky hallway, and then all of a sudden, we see something down the hallway, and we're gonna, scream and run, and something like that'll get a bunch of clicks, which is unfortunate. And I mean, I think we're kind of all guilty of it to some degree, because we're trying to build something. So I have my Haunted Road Media YouTube channel has 20,000 subscribers to it, and I was trying to really work on that for a long time. My TikTok is I shared a bunch of ghost stories out there, and that kind of blew up. And so, and you kind of unfortunately almost get a little addicted to watching the numbers grow. And it's like, oh, what can I do to make it grow? What can I do to make it bigger? And you start to forget what it is you were originally doing in the first place. And I think that happens to all of us to some degree. And it's a matter of, okay, taking a step back. Okay, what is the purpose of why we're doing this? Let's go back to that, because that's what people latched on to begin with.
Oh, I very much agree. By the way, Christina Gomez, a good friend of yours and mine, wants to give
Yes.
a shout out to you, saying hi,
Hi,
Mike.
Christina.
So we'll do that for her because she's amazing at what she does as
Yes,
well.
she is.
She very much is. She's got a long future ahead in her
Mhm.
paranormal career, supernatural career. That is absolutely for sure. Mike, when we talk about growing, the paranormal, and you're somebody who's seen all facets. You've seen the television side, you've seen the book side. You put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into your own career here. As we got about 4 minutes to go here, I'm curious, why do you do it? why have you've sacrificed years, you've sacrificed money, you've sacrificed a lot of different things in order to fulfill your dream of living your life the way you want, and that is living a paranormal life. A lot of people wouldn't make that type of commitment, not only to themselves but to their career as well. Why have you done this, and why has it worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a passion. There's parts of this that, like the writing part of it. I've been writing since I was 7 years old. It's in my blood. It's something I've always done. I wouldn't know what to do if I couldn't write. So that's always been with me. As far as exploring the paranormal, I mean, I had experiences dating all the way back to when I was 8 years old. I've always wanted answers for that. And, now as an adult, as I've been doing more research, meeting more people, I've been getting some answers to those questions. And as I get answers, I want to be able to share those with the world, because it might be able to help somebody else with whatever they're going through or whatever they've experienced. And then on the historic esoteric research side, I think there's a lot of lost knowledge here that the ancients had that could really be helpful and beneficial to our society today if we could find that and re-explore it and tap into it and figure out what exactly it was that they had, that they were able to do, that could, you look at, some of these ancient buildings that were built that we don't have the technology to do today. Was that some sort of sound technology? Did they have some sort of anti-gravity technology? What was it? And those are mysteries. And part of what drives me is in discovering the mysteries. It's just, yeah, it's in my blood, Dave.
Well, the other thing about you too is you are also one of the very rare few that is multifaceted. Okay. You're not just worried about ghosts or shadow people. You're going after the UFOs. You're going after the alien contactees. You're going after Sasquatch. You're going after Dogman. You kind of have you're one of the very few, and I can think of maybe a couple others, David Weatherly being one of them, John Tenney
Yeah.
being another one, who just look at this entire phenomena. Timothy Renner, Joshua Cutchin, to name another couple, who just embrace it all, understanding that the phenomena may be all one, and we have to look for that connection. With 90 seconds to go, why have you focused on everything rather than just specifics?
Yeah, it's all connected. I have my have my online learning site that's called the Connected Universe Portal for a reason, because everything within the universe is connected. From me to you, us to the planet, our planet to the solar system, the universe, everything. Whether it's on the physical plane, whether it's on other dimensions, on the quantum level, everything is connected. And so we have to look not only just at ghosts. I think that's kind of the tip of the iceberg into a lot of this other phenomenon, but we have to look at ETs. We have to look at angels and interdimensional beings, because in a lot of cases they could be using the same energetic modality to be able to enter into our plane of existence here. So we have to look at all these different things.
We really do. And you know what? It's one of those things, man, where you keep expanding, you keep learning, and you keep on growing. And that's what we see with our great friend, Mike Ricksecker. You can find all of his books at hauntedroadmedia.com, I believe is the website, Mike. Did I get that right? Haunted
Well,
Road.
you could go there, MikeRicksecker.com, for all of my books. But yeah.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. And they're on Amazon as well. You
Mhm.
might recognize him from the Alaskan Triangle television show. And you know what? He's one of the good guys in this field that you can really trust that their hard work is going to go try and find some very paranormal answers. Mike Ricksecker continues. We're going to get into shadow people and ghost stories when we return here at the bottom of the hour on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Let's get spooky. All right, we are clear. So you haven't been on since we've been on YouTube, um, doing this camera thing.
Mhm.
So just so you know, our audience can hear us on podcast and on YouTube. They cannot hear us on the radio side.
Okay. Fantastic. Good to know.
Mm-hmm. Paramarv said he saw your presentation at Michigan Paragon.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I see that down there. Yeah, I did the shadow person presentation there. Thank you very much.
Do you still love the conferences?
Oh yeah. Yeah. The conferences is like a whole big family getting together. Yeah, I love the conferences. So I have the Warren's Paracon coming up here in about a week and a half.
I have only ever done one paranormal or two paranormal conferences. One on the East Coast. That's where I got really screwed over by the organizer. And that was in 2017.
Okay.
And I'm not going to mention his name because there's not a lot of people that disgust me in this field, and this person does.
Mm-hmm. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. And then I did one in Washington State. But otherwise, it's funny. Every conference I've gone to has been UFO. Never done a cryptid conference. I've never done outside of those two, a paranormal conference. It's weird.
Okay. Yeah, I've done far more the paranormal conferences than the other ones. But yeah, I enjoy doing them. And when you do some of the other ones, when you kind of cross over, and you get to meet a whole other set of people, which is wonderful. So yeah, I enjoy them.
Yeah, I mean it's the amount of people you meet is pretty cool. And one of the biggest thrills I have with going to them is you get to meet listeners that you've never seen in your chat room, or you've never you never met before, but you see them there every night. It's kind of cool to shake hands. We did earlier this year, we did our first annual fan party for our show in Vegas, and we held it at the Golden Nugget. We had like 60 people show up, listeners and some special guests alike. And it was amazing, to meet some of the faces that you see in the chat room each and every night. And all of a sudden you get to shake their hands and say thank you and hang out with them and buy them a beer and all this kind of stuff. Really cool. We're doing it again next year.
Oh, good. Yeah, stuff like that is amazing. And even just with social media, there's sometimes somebody I've been friends with on Facebook or whatever for like 10 years, and all of a sudden at one of these conferences you finally get a chance to meet them. It's like, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that happen in Vegas where I call him a buddy of mine. He's a former Army Ranger. Him and I have known each other for like 7 years, and I met him through a friend of mine who lives in Vegas. But him and my friend Jure and I had never met. And all of a sudden, the Vegas party comes up, and he's like, "Hey, man, do you mind if I bring my buddy?" Well, he brings his buddy, and find out his buddy. Him and I had a lot to talk about.
Nice.
Which was very, very interesting. And it led me to meeting a person who, not this guy, but another person who spent 12 years working at Area 51.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, I mean, it's just amazing how this just kind of comes through. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's funny how small the world really is.
Oh, yeah. By the way, if you're free on May 19th to 21st, 2023, and if you got nothing planned, just come join us in Vegas for the party. We'd love to have you.
I believe that is the weekend of Parapsychon 4. So
I know
that's
they're every weekend now. Every weekend now.
Yeah, I'm already booked to speak at that one. I'm pretty sure that's the same weekend.
Yeah, I think there's a UFO conference in Arizona, but when isn't there a UFO conference in Arizona?
Right.
Nope. Where are we here? We got about 40 seconds here before we're going to come back. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of your comments down here in the chat. Yeah, nice crowd in here tonight.
Oh yeah, it'll grow even more here once we Once we turn the air, once Jimmy gets off the air, then we get another boost at 10 o'clock.
Right.
Hi, Scowling Greg O'Brien. And thank you to Christina and Marv for the super chats. It's a wonderful way to help us out on a nightly basis. And, of course, everybody who's given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, we appreciate it. All right, here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's News Wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Author, best-selling on Amazon, paranormal investigator of all things strange and weird. Mike Ricksecker is here. His website, MikeRicksecker.com, and he has a ton of books on his resume here. If you go to his website that you can add to your library, we would highly suggest it, including his Alaska's Mysterious Triangle, which we will get into a little bit later on in the show. He's one of the best when it comes to paranormal investigation. You may recognize him from television as well. And Mike, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Very much appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, Dave, thanks for having me back in. And I noticed down in the chat there, Red Sox Jenna say hello there. So I just have to do this real quick. I'm putting on my best Ewan McGregor from Star Wars. Hello there. There we go.
Well, Red Sox Jenna and I are ready to drop the gloves here, okay? Because, I'm a Yankee fan. Yeah. So
I'm a Red Sox fan.
Yeah.
Is that where it ends right now, Dave? We're just done here.
Yeah. What are we
and hey, I live in the Cleveland, Ohio area, so I also have to go for the Guardians here.
I know. And the fact that I'm Canadian, I'm supposed to go for the Blue Jays as well, but
right. But you're closer to Seattle, aren't you?
Yeah. Seattle would be our home team. And I've been to Seattle. You know what? I got to say this, man, as much as I'm a hockey guy through and through, if God gave me the ability and gave me the wish of saying you could have one day, you can either play one NHL game or one Major League Baseball game, I honestly would choose baseball.
Why is that?
Because the only thing I would want to do in hockey is really fight at center ice. That's the truth. But baseball, it's everything that hockey isn't. Hockey has become very mainstream. It's become like soccer on ice. It's not the game that I grew up with. Whereas baseball is still timeless. There's no time limit on a game. Every pitch means something. It's the smell of the ballpark, the grass, the smell of popcorn and onions being cooked. It's the feel of a baseball. Looking at that little kid sitting on the sidelines with his hat crooked, that's just hoping and praying that he gets a foul ball. You know what I'm saying? It's just everything to me that is good about sports is baseball. Even though
it takes you back to another era. Yeah.
It
really does.
And even though, I'll be honest with you, baseball and basketball players are the absolute biggest jerks out there when it comes to media. And I know this from my own, professional career as a sports reporter for a number of years. And hockey and football players are just fantastic. They really are. But
so Dave, I used to play ball.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had played baseball. So I don't know how we get along all right. But you never interviewed me for baseball, so that's fine.
You know what? Why haven't you written a haunted baseball book yet?
You know what's interesting is years ago, my friend Lewis and I, this is when I was working in the IT department of a library system in Maryland, and we were putting together a website. It never actually took off. We started putting together a website on historic ballparks, like historic ballparks that didn't exist anymore, that had been razed and were no longer there. And we were going to the sites where they had actually been. And since we were there in the Baltimore area, that's where we kind of first went to. And we had an old map from 1870 that showed the old ballparks on the map along with all the other buildings. And so we're using this 1870 map, and we found the location of where Madison Avenue grounds were in Baltimore, which was fascinating. It's just in a little neighborhood out there, nothing glamorous, but it's like this was the site of the old ballpark where they played in the 1870s. And what's funny is when we were trying to get out of that neighborhood, we got lost. And this is before, you had GPS on your phone and all that stuff. And the only way we got out of there is we used a map from 1870 to find our way out. And we did, which was amazing. So yeah, but there's something about those ghosts of the ballpark that are absolutely fascinating.
And I can say this for hockey, one of the biggest paranormal stories that it's rare. I've only ever seen it in one article, but a Canadian team has not won the Stanley Cup in 29 years.
Has it been that long?
It has.
Wow.
The last one was the Montreal Canadiens in 1992-93 season. So this would be the 30th season right now. And then the following year, they moved out of the fabled Montreal Forum into the Molson Center. And there is believed, the people who are very superstitious about hockey in Montreal believe that moving out of the Forum actually caused a curse right across Canada. And no Canadian, and it's funny because that curse also coincides with the same year Commissioner Gary Bettman took over the league, and he was very staunch American and really didn't give a care about Canadian franchises or the history of the game, and especially the Canadian history of the game. He wanted more Americans. He wanted more Europeans on the ice. He didn't like the Canadian toughness. And if you look at the game now, I'm not a fan of it, but my opinion means nothing. But either way, a couple of years ago, a paranormal team out of Montreal actually tried to move the ghosts over from the Forum, which has now been converted into a shopping mall, and tried to move them into the Montreal Canadiens' new home, the Molson Center, in order to try and release this curse. And, Canadian teams have come close. Almost everyone has made the Stanley Cup final since, but none of them have been able to win the Stanley Cup since. And maybe there is a curse. Who knows?
Who knows? We had, as a Red Sox fan, we had the curse of the Bambino, for all those years. So, but there is something to be said for, the energy in those type of situations, when you move from one building to another, there's a different vibe. There's a different energy within that building. And, some of these, newer stadiums, they're the big concrete jungles where you have, the older ones are, they're more rustic, and you have a lot of that kind of lived in type of flavor and energy that is built up over the years. And so but okay, so we're talking, Curse of the Bambino. There was a negativity, in the Boston area for a long, long time that, oh yeah, we'll get right there, and then we're going to blow it in the end. And that kind of like permeated in the culture for a long, long time. And I believe that when you have a mass amount of people like that, and they've done tests on this sort of thing, when you have a mass amount of people that are projecting a, certain emotion or certain thought and what have you, that it will actually manifest. So if you think that, you have millions of people that are thinking their team is going to get right there and then blow it, that is likely what's going to actually happen. And with the Red Sox, it actually took a lunar eclipse the night that they actually won the World Series in 2004. So, that kind of changed the energy right there.
I'm still hurting over that, losing the 4 games in a row.
Oh yeah, that was
That
yeah, it was the
hurt.
most miraculous comeback. That was amazing. And
Hmm.
that was another thing. It got, once you got a couple games into that, you could really feel the energy shift. You could feel the momentum shift. And that's really when the fan base started to believe that, oh my gosh, we could actually pull this thing off.
Yeah, it's a you know what when you as a pure sports fan, except for soccer, because I don't believe soccer is a sport. Uh, I do say this, when things happen like that, when special moments like that happen, winning four in a row, most people don't understand how tough that is. Most people don't understand that, superstition and and the power of positivity and energy goes a lot into what athletes do, man. I mean, we could do an entire show on Turk Wendell back in the 80s and 90s when he pitched, where he had to brush his teeth in between every inning and chew black licorice, and he couldn't touch the third baseline. And, I mean, all of
Oh yeah,
this kind
ball
of
players are really superstitious. Yeah, Wade Boggs, it was always, they called him Chicken Man because he always had to eat chicken, stuff like that. Yeah.
oh yeah. Enough sports. People are
All right.
probably going to get sick of that. Let's get into some shadow people here. You are known as one of
Absolutely.
the top premier investigators when it comes to shadow people, and whether they are dimensional beings or whether they are, orbs of dust, or whether they're figments of our imagination. Yet we still really don't have a clear picture of what these damn things are. So for all of your knowledge and time that you've spent into shadow people, are we looking at something demonic here, or are we looking at something that is just way out of the ordinary?
It depends on the particular shadow that we're looking at. There's no one single answer for, what is a shadow person and to say this is it. Um, they come in all different shapes and sizes. They come from all different, walks of life. You could really say there's, different races and species of these sorts of things. Some of them are human spirits that can't fully manifest as an apparition. You have some that are extraterrestrials, others that are what we would call an interdimensional being. Others are they could be thought forms, they could be astral projections, they could be time slips. A lot of different things. So it takes research and investigation into shadow activity at a particular location in order to deduce what exactly is this thing. Could they be demonic? Yes, they could, but also take note that that's rarely the case. Yes, you do have some that are, nasty and nefarious. You have some of them, if it's like a human spirit, uh, you if somebody was a jerk in life, a lot of times they're a jerk in death too. So you just might have a human spirit that is, being nasty rather than actually a demon. All the cases that I've been on and have investigated and have dealt with, been involved with, there's only one in which there was a shadow entity that was deemed a demon. And so they're few and far between.
Okay, so do you believe then that shadow people are very nefarious, and that doom and gloom comes when they are seen?
Well, people tend to fear what they don't understand. So a lot of times when we first see these things, if we're on a paranormal investigation, for one, I mean, we're kind of expecting to see something. So we may see a shadow entity, and it could be a variety of different things. But I think in most cases, when people are thinking like the whole doom and gloom, that sort of thing, it's one of those cases where, they wake up in the middle of the night and they see the thing in their bedroom. Usually their first inclination is not to go straight towards something paranormal or a shadow person or something like that. In many cases, the first thought is there's an intruder in the house. Somebody's broken in and they're standing right here in my bedroom. And at some point in time, you start to realize that, okay, it's not that, because there wasn't anybody that ever broke in. It's not a human being, that sort of thing. Um, so again, we kind of fear we don't understand. In many cases, they're just standing there watching, staring, not really doing a whole lot. Sure, it's an invasion of our privacy. It's creepy. It's that sort of thing. But most of them are not up to it, or they're not up to no good. It's, you have some stories that where they're actually benevolent, where they actually do nice things for people, and you have some, sure, that are mean, nasty, nefarious, but most of them are somewhere in the middle. They're rather benign.
Very true. What is one or two stories of shadow people, Mike, that have really stuck with you over the years? Maybe you can't solve them, or maybe they were just so intriguing that it's easy to come to memory.
I mean, there's a lot. So, the one that I really like to tell, because it was the moment uh, where I really realized that, yes, in fact, some of these are just human spirits. Because okay, so I say, and it's right there at the beginning of my book, A Walk in the Shadows, in the introduction, I reserve the right to change my mind. I might think something now, whatever it is. But as I continue to research and investigate, I might come to a different conclusion later on based on new data that I've come across. And so, like years and years ago, I used to think human spirits are human spirits; they're their own thing, and shadow people are shadow people; they're their own thing. They're completely separate. But as I would give presentations, talk at conferences, meet people, that sort of thing, I was getting a lot of stories from people that would say, "Well, I believe this particular shadow was, my uncle, or a historic figure that was that used to live here, that sort of thing." So I had to start giving it some sort of credence. And then my friend Rob Guttrow told me a story. Yeah, he was a great guy. Yeah, one of my best friends in the world. And it was about 10 years ago or so. And he was telling me the story about his aunt who had appeared to him as a shadow because she wanted him to deliver a message to his mother, who was still alive. It's like, I trust Rob with my life. It's like, again, he's one of my best friends in the world. So it's like, all right. So Rob is telling me this too. So I definitely give it some credence now. So this, okay, fine. Some shadow entities are human spirits. But then I actually got to see it for myself. We were at the Mineral Springs Hotel in Alton, Illinois. We had run an event that particular day, a little Paracon, and we were investigating. It was really getting down toward the end of the night. Just a handful of us left. We're in the top floor, abandoned part of the hotel, in one of the corner suites. But all of a sudden, we hear some noises coming out from the hallway. So we go out there to the hallway, looking down there, and all of a sudden see this black smoke start to billow up. And at first you're thinking, is there a fire going on down there? You don't smell smoke, but you see smoke billowing up. You just don't smell it. So it's like, okay, we're watching, it's coming closer, And then started to do something really unusual. It started to creep up the wall on the right-hand side, creep back down and creep back up. All the while it's coming closer and closer, until finally, one of those times that it creeps up the wall on the right-hand side, it morphed into the apparition of a little girl. And so now we're asking the girl, "Hey, come closer, come closer." And she ended up stopping right at this doorway, where the room beyond was a room in which many people over the years had reported the spirit of a little girl being there. Now, I had investigated there many, many times and never really got any interaction in that room. People have teddy bears and toys and all kinds of that sort of thing in that room to use as trigger objects. I got other activity throughout the top floor there with other spirits, but with her, nothing really. But finally, this one particular day, here she is standing right by that doorway. And what's interesting also about this is we talked earlier about, trying to find out that reason, why. Well, we all saw her a little bit differently. There were 5 of us that saw this little girl, but like I saw her fully formed from her head down to about her knees, and then she started to dissipate away. Others saw her fully formed at the feet, then on upward, and then it was like her head started to dissipate away. And so then, of course, you got to ask the question, why? Rather than just, oh, we all saw her differently. No, why did we see her differently? And I believe that comes down to personal resonance, energy, and vibration. The human body resonates within a certain frequency range, about 9 to 16 hertz, but each individual person is a little bit different. Well, the spirit herself also has her own personal energy resonance and vibration. So depending on how we're resonating and interacting within a particular moment, we're going to see this spirit energy a little bit differently. And that's why you can be on a paranormal investigation with somebody, they're standing right next to you, and you see something happen like a shadow or whatever. They don't see a thing. And why is that? Because we're all resonating at a little bit of a different frequency.
Wow, that is absolutely intense. I mean, did she ever physically communicate with you guys?
No, she just kind of stood there and looked at us, and she looked very, very sad, which is really the way people have reported her over the years. Usually, it's in the room itself, and a lot of the stories are she'll be standing by the window, looking sad, looking out the window as if she's waiting for somebody to come. And some different psychic mediums that have been in there have said things like, she's waiting for her family to come or her father to come. That sort of story. And for whatever reason, they never came to get her, which is a really sad story. But yeah, not any verbal communication, just kind of standing there looking sad.
Oh, that's terrible. We got about
Mhm.
3 minutes to go before we have to go to break here at the top of the hour. Mike Ricksecker is our guest tonight. Mike, I mean, one more shadow story, quick one here, if you have one for us. Anyone
Sure.
just make we always want spooky. What about humorous? Is there anyone that kind of just makes you laugh?
Humorous. Well, I mean, there was a playful one at Campsville Grade School in Campsville, Illinois, where it was a school that's not being used as a school anymore. The Archaeological Society is taking it over. We were able to investigate for a little while before they claimed ownership, and there was a particular shadow that was being very, very playful with us. We were in the gym. There was a set of double doors that went to the boys' locker room and then downstairs to the boiler room. And it was one of those, we'd keep hearing noises over there by the door. So we'd go investigate. And then all of a sudden we would hear noises over back by the bleachers. So we'd go back over to the bleachers. And then all of a sudden we're hearing noises over by the door again. So it was back and forth, back and forth. It was playing around with us. Finally, one of these times that we're sitting over by the bleachers, and we're hearing the noises over by the door again. We decided, okay, we're not going to go over there. We're just going to, call out from over by the bleachers and try to do a little EVP work, that sort of thing. And as we're doing that, I'm panning the camera across the gym, and over by those doors, you do see a shadow that is it's walking. It's kind of, you can actually see it walking in the video clip. And we did a height comparison later. It turned out to be about the height of a 10 or 11-year-old child, which of course makes sense for the school. But yeah, definitely a very, very playful one.
I love stories like that. I mean, playful ghosts are some of the most fun that you can have. I mean, and they create some good memories. I took my father on a paranormal tour at our local museum here that I was running. And I gave him I don't care if you believe in K2 meters or not, but I gave him a K2 meter to hold on to. And all of a sudden he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, "Son, what's this light going right to red?" I said, "Dad, there's a little girl up here. She's probably standing towards you." I said, "Why don't you put your hand out and see if she'll hold your hand?" So my dad's hand is like, it's down at his side, but it's like shaking, and
Hmm.
he's like just shaking away. And then all of a sudden his hand calmed down, and he said he could feel the palm of the little girl hold
Oh,
on to his
wow.
hand, right? And he was describing this, and to this day he tries to be Mr. Skeptic. I don't believe in that crap. You know, I'm an Alberta farm boy. I don't believe in any of that crap. But he'll never mistake it. Because once you get it out of him, he doesn't like talking about the subjects, but once you get it
Mhm.
out of him, it's kind of cool to see it. Mike, I'm going to get you to hold on right there
All right.
because we're going to go to break here at the top of the hour. MikeRicksecker.com is the website. You can find all of his books. Mike's an award-winning bestseller on Amazon. Great paranormal stories, supernatural stories. When we return, we'll hit him up about the Alaskan Triangle and some ghost stories because I know he's got a ton of them. The Paranormal Show of Spaced Out Radio continues with hour 2 next. Stay tuned. All right, Mike, we have about 6 minutes. I'm
Okay.
going to put Dirty Filth up here, and he can take it away with the cartoons, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Everybody's gone. Oh, yeah, here we go. Cartoon action. It's not done yet, everybody. Almost. And the blob is passed out. I can no longer feel my legs. Crap, I used the wrong green. Well, I hope everybody's having a good show. Hey, Black Dragon. Ooh, I got my pumpkins today, so I can't wait to cut up my spooky pumpkins. Okay, time for some boots on the alien. And then we can ink it. And it would look glorious. Hello, Jessica S. Apparently Super Duke is here too. Hi, Super Duke. Oh, okay, Blob. Oh, hi, Bomber. Oh, sorry, Blob. Oh, can't feel my legs. For a small cat, she weighs a lot. Ooh, spooky pumpkins. I haven't even cut mine up. I just bought them today. I just do simple ones. Usually Mrs. Filth does something incredibly complex. Oops. Well, Brown Dwarf, you'll have to shoot me a message or something. We'll figure out a plan. Oh, yeah. Miniature weapon silver. It's usually what I paint my weapons for my miniatures. Did I like silver more than gold? Because it kills vampires, or it kills werewolves easily. Not so much gold. Look at that. Crap. That's great. Mixing all the water up. I'm going to ruin all my brushes, and I'll have to go buy more. Need to invest in like a little tiny blow dryer of some sort. Blow dry my artwork. Okay, so let's start with stars. Might as well. I don't know why I started on the right-hand side. That's counterintuitive there, Dirty Filth. And now I'm rambling away.
Looking good, buddy.
Hello, Dave.
We got about 1 minute, Mike.
All right.
Yeah. Sweet Tony D, how you doing? Let's see who else has come in. Oob to Joe's Main, you've got aliens and Bigfoot. What are you drawing here, Filth? Looks like a mummy. I don't even know. Don't even know. All
Doritos, right. Dave. Flying Doritos.
Flying Doritos. Perfect. Thank you to Paramarv and Christina for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the learning or the love that you guys have shown. Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody who has hit subscribe and rang that bell for our subscription and giving us a thumbs up, thumbs down. Let's try and hit 100 tonight. Thank you. Here we go.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Weird is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Author, television star Mike Ricksecker is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio as we're talking all things paranormal and supernatural with Mike. His website, MikeRicksecker.com, where the award-winning author is having all of his books right there where you can pick up for your own library. We highly suggest that you do. He's got a great selection from Shadow People to the Alaskan Triangle and every ghost and campfire story in between. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Once again, Dave, thanks for having me back.
Not a problem. Mike, before we get to some more questions here that I have about ghosts and the Alaskan Triangle, let's get to our audience here for a couple of seconds here. Let's go to Chad right off the bat. Mike, have you seen paranormal events happening more frequently in the last couple of years?
I get that question a lot, and I've been getting that question for a lot of years. I don't necessarily think that it's, there's more paranormal activity that's, increasing. Paranormal activity has always been happening around us. In fact, Hans Holzer has a great quote that says, he doesn't believe in the supernatural, that everything that we call the supernatural is actually something that's very natural. So it's all a part of our natural world. I think what's happening here is, yes, we have more reports that are coming out about paranormal, the supernatural, but people are also becoming more comfortable talking about it, where 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you didn't really talk about it so much because it was still more taboo at that point in time. If you talked about hearing voices or seeing apparitions, then people all would either think you're a weird or a quack, or in some communities, you might find yourself in a straitjacket and put away into the psychiatric hospital. So people really didn't talk about it as much way back in the day. But now, over the last 20, 25 years, we've had a lot of television shows that have come out. The internet has been really good as far as, being able to find information about personal experiences that you've had. I mean, that was kind of like my research, back in the the mid 90s, before a lot of like Scariest Places on Earth or Ghost Hunters and shows like that came out, was you were finding like a lot of online forums and like the old Yahoo groups and things like that, where people were getting together and talking about different things that they had experienced. And then, once the television show started coming out, it was like, oh, look, here are these other people having these experiences. And so the conversation started to happen more and more. So I think what's happened is, more people, because of, seeing it within the media, seeing it on television, on the shows, now, like when it comes to the UFO stuff, now you have the US government talking about it. So, people are more open to talking about it now. So more stories are coming forth because of that.
I want to ask you one question as a follow up to this, Mike. And I've asked other people this too, but is the paranormal dying off? And I know that sounds real, like a real pun, but what I'm saying is, in popularity, have we pushed the paranormal
Hmm.
to its limits? Because every television show is the same, every television show, which really garners the interest. I mean, you don't see as many people joining paranormal teams anymore the way it was, say, 7, 8 years ago. Everybody seems to, the popularity really seems to be with UFOs right now because of what's happening within the United States government and the popularity of that on television. Granted, ratings are still very high on TV, but the paranormal to me seems to, like, does anybody care about it anymore the way they used to, say, 7, 10 years ago?
Yeah, I think there's an ebb and flow, to all of this. So, there have been some what you would almost call like little microwaves, kind of it'll rise and fall in popularity. And I think, certainly television has a part to play in that. For a while it was fine that okay, we're trying to find a ghost on TV, but then that wasn't enough. Now every single location has to be haunted. And then at some point that wasn't enough. Now everything has to be a demon. So within that, you would see these, kind of little waves go up and down. But overall, if you look at like the grand scheme of history, there's an ebb and a flow to that as well. So back during the mid to late 1800s into the early 1900s, a little bit, you had like the big spiritualism movement, and so you had a lot of seances, the whole table tipping thing, fairy activity. I mean, Arthur Conan Doyle, he sponsored the Cottingley fairies, which eventually turned out to be fraudulent, but still there was a huge interest in it during those particular years. And then all of a sudden that started to die off, and it became more of and maybe World War II had something to do. You had, well, number one and two, you had maybe those kind of put a cork in it for a little while. It's kind of hard to really know. And there was this big pullback from it for a long, long time. And then it was only like a couple of people around, like, Hans Holzer. And then a little while later, it was the Warrens. And so it was like, okay, little, inklings of people starting to get involved again, until, of course, the big push within popular culture here over the last quarter century.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you for asking that. Let's go to Mood Freedom. How can someone discern what kind of shadow person is there? What are the signs of each type?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's going to take a lot of research and investigation. I mean, like when it came to the little girl, I mean, we saw her morph out of shadow smoke, so it was like, okay, this one's a human spirit. So that one was pretty obvious. In other cases, it's going to take a little bit more than that, and you may never know. You may never actually, find out. But like some things you could look for is, how does it react to you? Like I had really interesting story where, walking into a restaurant, or I was in a restaurant, sorry, I was walking into the kitchen of a restaurant called Johnny V's, and there was this really, really quick wisp of a shadow that just boom, suddenly darted across the room, as if I scared it. So, how is it that I was able to scare, this entity? And what was also fascinating about this is that there's a little flimsy metal side door to this kitchen that, waiters and waitresses would carry large trays of food through. You could just tap the thing and it would move. And you heard, boom, it slam into this door, but it didn't move at all. So, okay, how is it that we could hear it slam into the door, but the door didn't move? The shadow, okay, doesn't have mass, fine, so it wouldn't make it move, but it made the sound. So that's when you start looking at, okay, did we witness something interdimensional here that perhaps on its plane of existence, maybe it saw me as a shadow, maybe it saw me as a ghost. I don't know, but I had scared it. And when it, hit that door, perhaps on its plane of existence in its dimension, that door blew wide open. It ran off into the back restaurant area. The sound working on a different wavelength, maybe that was able to traverse the different dimensions. So it's a theory on what may have happened, that this could have been an interdimensional being in this particular instance. But those are the sorts of things that you have to start asking yourself, is looking at the characteristics of the particular moment or moments and try to discern what exactly is going on here.
Very true. Very true. Let's get to one more question, and then I want to get into some of the Alaskan Triangle with you. Let's
Sure.
go to Uriel, because it leads up to what we're going to talk about here. Does the pyramid in Alaska control consciousness, like Tom DeLonge mentioned?
That's hard to know, because right now, when it comes to the Black Pyramid in Alaska, um, it's, we don't really have it, everything's anecdotal coming out of there. So there's not like the Great Pyramid of Giza where you can walk up to it and see the pyramid there and be able to walk inside of it and see the way everything's kind of carved out and built. And then we have theories as to, was it a machine? Was it a power plant? That sort of thing. When it comes to the Black Pyramid, we don't have a photograph of it. It's not someplace that you can just, like walk up to and there it is and go explore it. So we have to rely on the information coming out of these stories. So like Tom DeLonge saying, does it control consciousness? Maybe. One of the other ideas is that it was a massive power plant, like is believed, or some people believe the Giza power plant or the Giza pyramid to be, that being a power plant. And, they believe it was so huge and so massive that it was not only powering Alaska, but it also stretched into Canada. Okay, that's a theory, but we don't actually physically see it in order to be able to make a better assessment of it. So it's really hard to say. Hopefully more information will come out on that, and perhaps even getting a physical look at it, which would be amazing.
Let's stick with Alaska here,
Mhm.
because you've done a television show called the Alaskan Triangle, and this is something that you went looking for all the mysteries regarding missing people, people who just vanished, military stuff, Bigfoot, Dogman, all sorts of monsters and cryptids and aliens that are said to be roaming around. Never mind having to dodge a grizzly bear or two in between. How mysterious is this Alaskan Triangle?
Yeah, we're talking about, one of the most remote places on Earth. It's the state is absolutely massive. Over 600,000 square miles. It's more than 2.5 times the size of Texas. And the actual part that we call the triangle is larger than the state of California. But you're talking about like vast mountain ranges and frozen tundra and places that we've never even surveyed before. Satellite imagery is spotty at best in some of these areas. So there's a lot of mystique about what's actually going on in Alaska. And for being such a large, massive state, it only has about the size for population of about the city of San Francisco. So when we talk about there being 16,000 people that have gone missing there since 1988, that becomes a very, very large number. And where did they go? Sure, some people, went missing in the woods and got lost and, got attacked by a grizzly bear, that sort of thing. Some people have been kidnapped, but the number is so huge per capita. It's mind boggling. Some people have just right in plain sight have suddenly gone missing to never be seen again.
Do you think there's a lot of open portals up there? Do you think that there's a lot of natural explanation for what is going on. I mean, let's face it, when you're in a place, and I kind of live in a place like that too here, where I am in central British Columbia, where you can, it's very easy to get lost in the woods.
Mhm.
And if you're not prepared, you forget a compass or a GPS tracker or something along those lines, you can easily vanish. Is it something more? I'm wondering if it's more nefarious of what's going on in that triangle, or whether you feel it's more natural and human caused.
Well, I mean, some of it is, very natural. I mentioned, yeah, sure, you can get lost in the woods and attacked by a grizzly bear and never be seen again. That can certainly happen. Some people are, found again, whether alive or dead. And those that are dead, at least the families get some sort of closure. The ones that go missing and are never seen again, the family has no closure. They have no idea, and they are holding on to a glimmer of hope that somewhere out there is their loved one. But then you have these stories of people that, they were following a path. They heard a sound off to the side, took 2 steps out into the woods, couldn't see what was making the noise, turned around to step back on the path, and was just gone. And all of a sudden, they are lost in the woods. They took 2 steps off the path. All of a sudden, they're lost in the woods, and they're found maybe a week or 2 weeks later. They're surviving, trying to get back to civilization. Where did they go? How did that happen? Where they were just, were they teleported? Did they fall into some sort of portal or time slip or something like that? We don't know, but they were suddenly lost in the woods after taking 2 steps. It doesn't make much sense. There's one fascinating story of a guy, Michael LeMaitre. He was in the middle of a very public race about 10 years ago. It's the Mount Marathon race near Seward, and he runs up the mountain just like everybody else. Never comes back down. Nobody knows what in the world happened to him. There, have search parties out there looking for him. Did he fall off the path somewhere? They never found him. They never found his, nothing. 10 years ago, in the middle of a very public race. What in the world is that? And then you have the missing planes. The most prolific of which was the Hale Boggs and Nick Begich plane disappearance, which Boggs was the House Majority Leader at the time. Very, very prolific individual. And their plane going from Anchorage to Juneau just poof, disappears going through the Portage Pass, which is where most planes travel through, making that journey, and have never been seen again. The largest search and rescue mission to that point in U.S. history, this is 1972, was launched. Hundreds of thousands of man hours were put into that, thousands of people activated searching for them. Spy planes were utilized. Nothing ever found of that plane at all. Where did it go?
That's amazing to me. Amazing, because I often wonder. I mean, Alaska, let's face it, has a lot of UFO reports.
Mhm.
Including the most famous in 1986 with the
Yeah.
Japanese Airlines cargo 747 flying across and coming across a 1 to 2 mile long mothership, and then getting forced down by the military to land, and those pilots ended up getting fired after having spectacular flying careers, and it was only after time that they were reinstated because of public pressure by Japanese Airlines and other people to reinstate them. But I mean, when you look at it, I always come back to aliens and portals. And with David Politis's missing 411, the portals thing really just seems to have a real push for me. What's your thoughts on the portals?
Well, and that could be what happens when somebody steps off the path and turns around and it's gone. Did they step through a portal? And there's a couple of different ways that could work. Maybe it teleported them to somewhere else in the forest. Maybe it teleported them to some other point in time. Yeah, it's very possible. And when it comes to the idea of portals, now you have the energy there that could certainly manifest these sorts of things. I point back to Bruce Gernon in the Bermuda Triangle, where, and this was also during the 1970s, that he described what he called an electronic fog. And as he was flying through these clouds, they formed up like a tunnel around him. And as he flew through, all of a sudden he's looking down, the city of Miami is below him. And he basically would have had to have traveled 100 miles in 3 minutes in his little Cessna airplane, which just isn't possible. So it's a shorter type of time travel, really, what's going on here. He went through some sort of portal and came out on the other side, having jumped ahead in time. And that could be what's happening to some of these different missing airplanes. Now, in 1950, there was the massive Douglas Skymaster with 44 personnel aboard that totally went missing. And one of the ideas is that it had disappeared through a portal. So what I like to throw out there is, okay, if it did disappear through a portal, and perhaps if it went through a portal, you could say maybe it went into another dimension. Maybe it went into another point in time. So let's take a look at the time aspect of it. If it went to another point in time, say, I don't know, 500 years into the past, just taking a number here, 500 years in the past. Okay, great. So airplane shows up, it's in the sky. What do the indigenous people of the land think at that when they suddenly see this massive airplane flying over their heads? Well, they have no context of airplanes, but they do of birds. And it's very loud, very thunderous. So maybe it's like some of these Thunderbird legends of old. And that's what's happening here, that some of these large airplanes that have gone missing have gone through some sort of portal, have jumped back in time. They become the Thunderbird legends. So, it's different. I mean, there's no way to prove it at this point unless we, at some point excavate and find this airplane down there and somehow carbon date the thing to 500 years ago. That would be fascinating. I don't know if the government would ever admit to something like that if they found it, but it's definitely food for thought as to what may be going on here.
Well, you know what? To me, it seems like one of the only logical solutions. I mean, but these portals just seem to pop up everywhere, not just in Alaska. But I mean, you look at, the maps that David Politis has put together, or how many times have we heard stories? Not to sound grotesque here, but my buddies and I were out in the city going bar hopping. My buddy runs into an alley to relieve himself behind a garbage can and vanishes.
Yeah.
And his buddies are 20, 30 feet away. They're going to hear any noise. They're going to hear any struggle. They're going to check up on their friend, but he's gone. Or you hear these stories on mountain trails where somebody's walking ahead and they look behind them. The person who is with them, whether it's a child or a fellow hiker, has vanished. And they can hear them saying, "Help me, where are you?" Yelling, but you can't see them. They're gone. It's like they've just walked onto the same trail in a different dimension. I mean, this is the most fascinating part of this entire phenomena for me.
Yeah, and sometimes you can hear the person calling back for a little while, but you don't actually see them. And we mentioned before with the shadow person at Johnny V's restaurant of sound working on a different wavelength. So we might be able to hear that passing through dimensions if the portal is still open. And when it comes to the Douglas Skymaster from 1950, a couple different things. There were some reports of some radio chatter coming back through. It was very indiscernible, but they thought it might have been from the crew of the Douglas Skymaster. But again, they still weren't able to find the plane. So, was the radio chatter coming back through the portal until it finally closed? You mentioned UFO earlier, and with that particular event, just before, like the day before and a day or two after the Skymaster went missing, there were UFO reports in the area. So some people, speculate that, maybe, they were abducted by, whoever the extraterrestrials were in the UFOs. So that's always a possibility too.
Always a possibility. And that's the problem. We have all of these possibilities, but no full answers as to what is truly going on out there in this beautifully strange world of ours. We have Mike Ricksecker for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. We'll get to more of your questions as well. We'll get into some of Mike's favorite ghost stories, as it is Halloween time once again. And I don't know if you've got your costume. I'm going to be a slice of pizza. I've decided, since I can't eat pizza anymore. Pepperoni pizza is my costume for this year. MikeRicksecker.com. You can find all of his books right there from the award-winning author. author. We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. We're clear.
All right.
Yeah, the whole portals thing, man. I don't think enough of us are paying attention to that. I mean, we are, but
Well, we know they exist. I mean, even NASA has pointed to a portal just outside of Earth. You know, they call it an X point, and it opens and closes irregularly. But basically, it's that point where the Earth's magnetic sphere hits the solar wind, and right at that point, there's a portal. They don't know exactly what it does or where it goes, but according to NASA, there it is.
yeah, I don't know, man. You know, there's one story that really hit me in David Paulides' book of 2019. It was his Missing 411 Canada book.
Mm-hmm.
And this one hit me because there were 3 young girls in Ontario or Manitoba. They were out horseback riding, and they came to a fork on the path, and the one girl says, "This is a shortcut. Let's go to the left here, and and we'll go this way." The other 2 are like, "No, we've never ridden down that trail before. Let's just stick to our regular trail." And the other, they go back to the sister, and the sister's like, "No, I'll race you. I'll take this trail to the barn. I know it's faster. And, hey, if I win, I get to you do my chores for a week," or whatever it may be. And so the 2 girls, the one sister and the friend, ran on the main trail. The other one takes this alleged shortcut. Both her and the horse have never been seen again.
Wow.
And
That's sad.
That one, I mean, as sad as it is, and thank you, Apollo, for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciate it. But as sad as that is, here's the thing. If it was
the whole horse,
a human isn't going to kidnap a 1,200-pound horse.
Right.
They're going to rip the girl off the horse. The horse is going to be found. Horse is never found. Right?
Yeah, that's strange. The whole horse is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, my theory is, and I think that this girl rode into a portal, and on that other side of the portal, her and her sister met up. But on this plane, she's gone. Right?
That's an interesting way to think about it. Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said for different portal activity around the world, and we didn't really get into it, but you have Ivan T. Sanderson's vile vortices, and what's interesting about those particular locations, and most of those are different triangle areas around the world, is the way they connect through the globe actually make a perfect 20-sided polygon out of our Earth. So that's where you can start taking this stuff into sacred geometry. Sorry, it's getting late. I'm starting to slur.
That's all right.
But it's fascinating to actually look at that.
It just blows my mind, my friend. It blows my mind.
Absolutely.
Because then if these portals are real, it gives credence to all of these other mystic creatures that we say use portals, whether it's Bigfoot or Dogman or little people or gnomes or thunderbirds that we never see. It really does. It gives a lot of credence.
Yeah, a fascinating book on when it comes to the fairies and gnomes and all that. Passport to Magonia, Jacques Vallée. That's a great book, and it gets into that about the fairy realm, and that it's not just legend and lore. There's actually some credence to what these sightings actually are, and it gets into the idea of portals.
Let's get to Donnie here, who is asking, Mike, the longer you do this and the more you figure this out, do you ever stop and wonder, are we just characters in a video game?
Well, in my book, A Walk in the Shadows, I do have a chapter on the simulated universe, and basically it asks the questions. Okay, if we are in a simulated universe, then what would shadow people be within that? But to some degree, we are. Is it like a video game? I mean, I have a degree in simulation programming, so I think it's easier for us to contextualize it as a video game, but it would be something more like organic or biological. And really, if you look at our world religions, when you look at the idea of reincarnation, it's like logging in and logging out of a video game. You know, you come down here, you live for a little while, you go back up. And
Hold on. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Hanging out, talking all this weird woo with you. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, don't forget to check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We have them until the top of the hour. Author, researcher, television personality, Mike Ricksecker is here, and you can go to his website, MikeRicksecker.com, to find all of his amazing books to add to your catalog of haunted stories, and they are great. Trust me on that one. Mike, thank you so much for being here tonight, my friend.
oh, absolutely. I'm taking a look at Phil's art down there, and that turned out really nice.
Oh, yeah. You know what? Dirty Filth, our artist, he is just amazing at what he does.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, it's an alien giving candy to a couple of mummies, you know, for Halloween. The title is Trick or
That's
Treat.
fun. It's really fun.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely it is. But do you have any Halloween traditions? I mean, being that you're into the spookiness.
You know, for a while with my kids, it was like every year. For a while there, I was a vampire. Um, so you know, we would do different things to decorate the house and all that. I mean, my kids are grown now. But I mean, we always did, you know, the dressing up part, and you know, the kids always had a lot of fun. I mean, I had fun with it as a kid. You know, my kids, I tried to kind of share that as well. So you know, we do the candy, and you know, maybe a little Halloween party with their friends and things like that. So yeah. It's also, well, traditionally it's also my father's birthday, so every year we do have to celebrate his birthday.
Hey, why not?
Yeah.
You know, I want to ask you, you know, the ghost stories that you have covered over the years, whether you've written about them or whether you've covered them for television or your own podcast, you know, some of them are spooky. Some of them will just make you scratch your head. What kind of ghost story do you like?
I mean, I like the ones that they're kind of mind benders, things that make you think. You know, they get with an unexpected twist in there. So, I think a great one is, you know, the movie The Others. You know, I love that as a ghost story type of a movie. So, you got your classic ghost story going on, this big, you know, cool, creepy haunted house that has a great twist at the end. So, yeah.
So for you, when you go on a paranormal investigation or you're writing about a certain ghost, are you looking for, you know, that fancy legend that nobody talks about, or are you looking for, you know, that popular one that's going to spook you out? Because we often talk about the spookiness of the ghost stories and or whatever it may be, but we never ever really talk about, you know, the fun times we have with ghosts, the weird or strange interactions, which I just find compelling.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm on a paranormal investigation and I'm going to write about it, I mean, I go where the story takes me. You know, I'm not going to try to, I don't know. I guess, if I want it to be a spooky encounter and it's not, I'm not going to end up writing that it was a spooky one. It's, in a lot of the cases, we're giving a voice to these spirits from the past, and we're trying to retell their story. But there are, some really interesting interactions that happen along the way, whether they're spooky or fun, or maybe they give you some more information to, you know the history of the location, or who they might be, or something like that. So it really kind of depends on the moment.
What are a couple of your most memorable encounters?
Yeah, I've had a lot. One that's great. So a great haunted house would be the Stone Lion Inn in Guthrie, Oklahoma. And it's kind of just the epitome of a haunted house. You walk up to it, you're like, looking at you like that. Yeah, that place is haunted. Yeah, so turn of the 20th century home, in a very old historic town. And when you walk in, it's just got that like creepy, cool ambiance. You hear floors creaking, and it's almost like you hear voices on the air. The place was used as a mortuary for several years, and there's an old embalming table sitting right there in the entrance hall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So it really kind of sets the tone. So we investigated there several times when I used to live out in Oklahoma. And this one particular occasion, I was just doing a initial EMF sweep of the house, just give ourselves a baseline. And I was in the library area, and we didn't really ever record paranormal activity there before, but I'm doing due diligence, doing the EMF sweep. And as I got over by the fireplace, all of a sudden I was just overwhelmed with this huge wave of energy. And my meter spiked all the way out, and boom, I'm getting hit with some weird, strange energy. And I almost passed out right there. And I had to kind of, catch a breath, and everybody's wondering if I was all right. I'm like, no, I'm okay. So I was like, all right. So that was interesting. A few minutes later, we go ahead and we start the investigation. And in that entrance hall, along with the embalming table, there's also a set of drawers there. It's kind of blocking off these old doors, because they don't want them to use. They don't want people to use it, because they've set up the whole place as a bed and breakfast. So they set a bureau over here in this one area. We had noticed that one of the drawers was open a little bit. Didn't really pay it any mind. Continued on into the actual suite that was down this one hallway. And we were only down there like a minute, and all of a sudden we heard this bang come from back out in the entrance hall. So we go rushing back out there, and we noticed that drawer in that set of drawers, that bureau, had been slammed shut. So like, oh, okay, something's going on here. So the one guy gets out his tri-field meter. I start snapping photos, and I caught in my camera this fantastic white wisp that was there between him and the bureau. Like, okay, cool. There's something going on here tonight. But wait, there's more. So we decided that that suite that was back there was a little bit too small for our whole group. So we decided to split up. A couple people were going to go back into that suite. I started leading a group up the stairs, and I got to the middle landing of the staircase, and another investigator had started up. And just between us, one of the wall hangings on the wall there along the staircase just boom, crashed to the stairs and shattered. And of all things, this was a framed photograph of Lizzie Borden. So
Strange. Oh my.
yeah, it was a crazy, crazy night.
That is just, that's one thing I love about the paranormal is those type of coincidences that you have like that. I mean, I think we all who've experienced the paranormal have we have the spooky stories, and then we have the ones that are just head scratchers, and one that makes you laugh. I remember playing on a Ouija board with some friends, and all of a sudden there was a fire that started in the wood stove. And my buddy went around the house. Did anybody start the fire? Because it hadn't been burning since 9:30 that morning, and it was now 10:30 at night. And all of a sudden, the planchette starts to. A few of us still had our fingers on the planchette. It starts to move around, and one of us asks, do you know who started the fire? It goes to yes. And then we said, who? It spelled out, I did. When we asked why, the spirit said, I was cold. I mean, like,
Well,
I mean, you wanted a
there you are.
logical answer. I mean, that's pretty logical communication right there, if you ask me. But I mean, for yourself, what scares you, Mike? What gives you, after all these years of doing this, what gives you the heebie-jeebies?
I mean, it's a tough question because when I'm out on a paranormal investigation, I mean that's what I'm looking for. So when something unusual happens, I'm running toward it, So I'm not really backing off like, oh, that's too spooky. I'm out of here. No, I'm there to find out what this phenomenon is all about, or who these spirits might be, or whether it's an interdimensional being or whatever's going on here, or if, like, we're helping a particular family. Maybe there's something that we need to find out about this entity to help, inform the family what's going on or give them some closure, whatever the situation is. So usually I'm running toward it. Um, it's really in those moments that it's unexpected that that it might get me a little bit. So there's this one particular time that it was out in Maryland, and there was a friend of mine that was going through a tough time, and she had parked her SUV back behind her old family home, which was now an abandoned house. And I'd gone down there to help her down, to help her out, kind of almost talk her off a ledge, sort of thing. And so I parked in the driveway, walked back to her SUV, got in, and we're talking for a while. But it was really, really dark back there. I mean, this was not in town; it was kind of outside of the town, and it's nice big uh, dark forest back behind the house. And so as we're sitting there talking, I'm noticing in the side mirror that there are all these short shadow entities that are starting to creep up around the trees. And we're talking and I'm looking. We're talking, I'm looking. And she notices that I keep looking at something through the side mirror. She's like, you see something, don't you? And she had been involved a little bit with the paranormal. Um, so when I explained, well, yeah, I keep seeing these short shadow entities crawling up toward the trunks of the trees. She understood, what I was talking about. But we continued the conversation on for a little bit more. But it was kind of getting real dark and heavy back there with all this going on. And then all of a sudden, I saw one of them creep up behind the car, and that was when I was like, we should probably go and get out of here. This isn't what we're here for. We're not in the right situation. We're not in the right frame of mind right now. Don't have any equipment either. So maybe we should take the conversation elsewhere, which she agreed to. So I get out of the car. I still see all these shadows, lining the trees. I didn't see the one that came up to the car. I don't know where that one went. So I go walking back to my car. And as I'm walking back to my car, I'm keeping an eye on the trees just to make sure nobody's following me. But I looked up in the treetops, and there was, I don't know if it was connected to the shadow entities at all, but it was this white silky thing that was kind of slinking through the treetops. I've kind of called it over the years like a living spider web, just with the way it was slinking through the treetops. And it was like, yeah, we definitely needed to go. So I got in the car, she drove up, we met up somewhere else. But that was one of those moments where it's like, all right, that one was pretty creepy.
Do you ever feel that you've put yourself or in a position to be attacked or run over by spirit?
Well, I mean, still mine in that time I did feel, overwhelmed by some sort of energy. I wasn't putting myself into that. I didn't feel I was putting myself into that situation because we'd never gotten that type of activity there before at that house. It was always pretty mild. Most of the hauntings are by a little girl, and then the former homeowner. So usually there weren't things like that there. So that was a very, very different night when we had that stuff happening at that house. But the one time was, and this is the one case in all my years I've been doing this, that was actually considered demonic. It was featured for the television show The Haunted. The episode was Monster in the Closet, because the adult daughter of the house kept seeing this red-eyed entity in her closet. Now, the family had been experiencing hauntings there for about 20 years, and they finally just started talking about it when they reached out to us to investigate. The television show makes it look like that they were having all these hauntings, called us up, we investigated there one time that we deemed it was a demon, and then boom, we got Carl Johnson out there to cleanse it, which is not really what happened. We investigated there several times to try to figure out exactly what was going on in this house. Was this spirit, the father, the former homeowner who had taken his life there, or some of these others? There was some dark history with the house. Was it one of these others who had attempted suicide in the house? It would always seem to be around that, somebody taking their own life. Why was that? And in our investigation, we deemed that it was something else, maybe attached to the land that was there before the house was built. So we did end up having Carl come and help us with a cleansing of that house, which is a big part of what they filmed for that episode. And it got to this one point where we're doing the cleansing. We had asked the family to stay outside during this, but the young woman, had come into the house to use the restroom, and we ended up finding her in the master bedroom talking at something unseen against the wall. And she's asking questions, like, why are you here? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep terrorizing me? Why do you keep terrorizing the cat? That sort of stuff. And so Carl decided to do a blessing over her. And when he did that, she doubled over like she had just gotten punched in the gut. And you very, decidedly hear her go, ooh, like that. And she falls to the ground. So we get her back up, get her around the bed. She's okay. But when I listened back to my audio afterward, just before you hear her, get punched in the gut, you hear the word die. So somebody was seriously trying to hurt her in that moment. Now, there are other things that suddenly started happening at that time that the television show didn't show, because they only had so much time to tell the story. The tri-field meter that we had set up over by her closet in her bedroom, that started going off like crazy. And then the back door to the master bedroom started blowing open, and we'd shut it, and it'd blow open again, and we'd shut it again. I had to deadbolt the thing. Carl ended up doing a blessing over the door. So then, we finished up in the house. We're pushing this thing out into the backyard. And when we got out into the backyard, the wind really started kicking up like crazy, and the cats are running around us in circles, which was really bizarre. And Carl still continuing his blessing, continuing his blessing. The wind starts kicking up more and more and more. He finally finishes the blessing, drops to a knee. The wind dies. There's no wind anymore. It's gone. So, and Carl's like, it's gone. It's over. Okay. So we get Carl up. He's okay. We go over to the family and tell them, we're done. It's gone. Everything's okay. And then we made mention to them real quick. Well, that wind got really crazy, didn't it? And they looked at us like we're crazy. And they're like, what wind? Now they're just over in the side yard. This is not a big house. It's not a big yard. They're just over in the side yard. And all that crazy wind that we were experiencing in the backyard, they never felt a lick of that over in the side yard. So really, really bizarre night. But yeah, if there was a time that somebody was going to get hurt, the girl did. Taliesin, she got hurt. She got punched in the gut, and so that was kind of like really the closest that I came to like some sort of significant injury, because I was standing like right next to her when that happened.
We got 5 minutes left. I got some quick questions for you. Has a ghost or a cryptid ever left you a present?
Not that I recall leaving me a present. No. We've had some trickster ones where they've taken stuff from us and then returned it later and things like that. But not that, just straight out left me something. No.
All right. Midwest is asking, any plans for more shows on the Alaskan Triangle?
So we're fingers crossed. There'll be a season 3 of the Alaska Triangle. The Travel Channel just recently released a couple of months ago a podcast version of the television show to kind of, gauge interest. Now they keep running it, reruns of it. So and people keep watching it because I always hear from people whenever they run it. So there's that possibility. Now there are other television shows that are running like an episode on the Alaska Triangle that I've been involved with. So you can be on the lookout for those as well.
Jules is asking, as an ethical matter, how long do you feel one should wait before investigating a person's demise?
A while. You need to respect the family. So, like these people that will immediately try to do a, ghost box session or something in their kitchen or their dining room for somebody that just passed away. No, that's totally disrespectful for the family. You got to give it some time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes years, decades.
Yeah. Give us, so let people grieve. Yeah. Give it some years. Yeah.
Agreed. All right, let's move on to a different question here. And let's go to Joe. If you find a portal, is it a good idea to shoot flares into it?
Probably not. You don't know what's on the other side, so if you have a dry grass on the other side, you might start a forest with a bunch of leaves, you might burn down somebody's home. So no.
All right, let's continue on here. We got a couple more. Let's go to Blue Cruise. That's different. That one's for Dirty Filth. And let's go to Chad here. Have you ever experienced the hitchhiker effect?
Good question. So, my kids thought I did one time. Turned out to be my grandfather. But so when I leave an investigation, there are times where I feel like somebody is going to try to follow me out. And in those moments, I just turn around and say, no, you need to stay here. And that usually does it. But there was one time, it is funny. It is kind of funny because it was literally during a road trip at a rest stop. And it was like just straight up like a hitchhiker because we're suddenly driving down the road after this rest stop. And it's like, somebody's in the back seat.
Oh no.
So we had to ask them to leave us. Like, we don't know where you're coming from or, why you were there or whatever, but you can't come with us. So, but yeah, so that's happened in that case, but never from a paranormal investigation because I've always told them you need to stay here.
Well, that's good. That's good. We got about 90 seconds to go here in a show that has absolutely flown on by. And Mike, it's been way too long since we had you on. I will personally take blame for that, but it's always a pleasure to hook up with you, my friend, because when I was getting started with Spaced Out Radio 7.5 years ago, you were one of the good guys who gave me an opportunity to interview you, and we've always remained good friends of the field since then. And I just love watching your success. Tell our audience all around Radioland and the internet world where they can find your books and everything that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Best place is MikeRicksecker.com. You can find the links to all my books there. You can also check out my connecteduniverseportal.com online learning site. I've got that's where I keep my my blog and all kinds of other classes and courses. Also check out the tours. So people are interested in Alaska. We're doing an Alaska cruise next September, but we also have Stargates of Ancient Egypt coming up here in February. So you can find information on that on both of those sites, MikeRicksecker.com and connecteduniverseportal.com.
Right on, buddy. It's been so good to talk with you again. It really has.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dave. Yeah, it's always a great time talking to you. You have some really good questions. I always appreciate that.
Well, and you answer them with great professionalism too, my man. And I appreciate you and everything that you do for the field. And like I said, I think you're one of the real ones who's doing this for the right reasons. And keep up the amazing work. Mike,
you too, Dave. Yeah, you've been doing some amazing work out here too. So you keep it up as well.
Will do. Coming up next, we're going to head to hour number 3. The Swamp Dweller will be back with another spooky story. Then little Timmy Senor puts on his UFO tinfoil for the UFO report. Yeah, it's a busy hour number 3 coming up on Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. Let's get to it. We got a busy show still ahead. We'll be right back. Always a pleasure, buddy.
All
Great
right.
show.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. No, thank you, Dave. Yeah, and I know it's been a little while, but I really do appreciate coming back. So always a good time.
Anytime you want to come on, man, you just let me know.
All right, sounds
Anytime.
good.
All right, brother. I'll let you
So
get
you have a good night, my friend.
You too.
All
Take
right,
care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Mike Ricksecker, everybody. One of the real good guys in this field. Just one of the real good guys. And I really appreciate him, and I hope you guys enjoyed that one. I'm going to be right back, and we'll get into Swamp Dweller. Hold on. Hello, everyone. We got 1 minute to go. Hi, Holly Williams. I see little Timmy Senor in the background. He's looking bald and beautiful. No, I never punched a referee. Never punched a referee. My final game coaching, though, and when I coached junior hockey, I fought another coach behind a bench. That was pretty impressive. I got fired shortly after that. Thank you, Donnie, Apollo, Marv, and Christina for the super chats tonight. Evan Walters, you pissed me off tonight for the last time. That's for sure. Thank you to everyone who's given us a thumbs up, thumbs down. All our newbies who have hit subscribe. We're close to 19,200. Here we go with hour number 3.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for tuning us on in. We've had a good time tonight with Mike Ricksecker talking spookiness, and we're going to get to more spookiness in just a moment with the Swamp Dweller. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Weird. Weird is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go once again as we head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on a spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. This is a story my friend shared with me recently. Apparently this happened to him around last Halloween. I'm a security guard stationed at a gigantic shopping mall with a few other security guards. I went off to my area while the others went to theirs. I started to do my rounds going into shops and around the central part of the mall. It was getting close to Halloween, so the mall was relatively packed. Then that's when I noticed the cloaked figure coming towards me smoothly. It bumped into me as it passes me. I felt the feeling us security guards never really feel. Fear and evil. I made a call out to it to see if it would respond. "Hey, you, stop there," I yelled. Nothing. Nothing in return. It was like it didn't even acknowledge that I was there. So I followed it to see where it was going. It stopped and turned slightly to see if it was being followed. Then it continued going. But the pursuit was cut short by an elderly Asian man falling down in a shop. As the nice guy I am, I had to go help them. I turned back to where the cloaked figure was, but it wasn't there anymore, like it vanished in thin air. I went to go have my break. When I was about to walk through the door, I ran into Rex, my friend. "Hey, did you happen to see some sort of cloaked figure walking around?" I said. Rex went white and said, "Yeah, and this time it was looking at me." We both sat down and never brought up the cloaked figure again. We don't know if it was a person in a costume or a member of some unknown cult, so I ate my lunch and headed back out. Later that afternoon, as it turned into night, the people started to get thin and the shops started to close. When it was dead as a doornail, my night shift began. I hopped on my cart, fired up the belt driver, and started doing my rounds on the bottom floor. It was pitch black only until the spotlight on the cart lit up a bit. The darkness isn't the only thing I should be worrying about. That cloaked figure is probably still around the mall somewhere. Then I heard a sound, like something was laughing. But it wasn't a normal laugh. It was distorted, childlike laughter. It went off in several places around me. It was taunting me like little kids do to adults. But the mall was closed, meaning there was no one here. Who's there? I yelled. The laughing stopped, and the mall fell silent again. Then suddenly there was a loud bang from the second floor that scared me. So I headed to the escalator, went up to the second floor. As I rounded the corner, I noticed the vending machine, walking down, and saw some black mass next to it. I shone my light on it, and I noticed it was the rear end of a grizzly bear, a gigantic grizzly bear bigger than any I have ever seen. The thing froze as the light hit it, and it slowly turned to face me. The front of the gigantic creature was that of a bobcat with glowing red eyes and long fangs, and the back was that of a bear. The creature rose on its hind legs, making it about 7 to 8 feet tall. It held its bobcat paws in the air out to balance its body. I could feel its red eyes looking right into my soul. "Who's there?" it said in a distorted version of my own voice, letting out a god-awful screech after. I was terrified. I jumped into the cart and sped all the way to the entrance and ran outside. I have never seen this thing since that incident, and I have no idea what it was. But after reading many stories, I believe this has to be some sort of skinwalker. I have no other explanation. I know that you get sent tons of stories like this, and this may be anticlimactic, but I have never heard of an animal that looks like the front half is a bobcat and the last half is a bear. And not only that, but it was overgrown to all hell.
And that's why you just don't go wandering in the forest, people. Yep, you don't go intense. You don't do anything to put yourself in the midst of danger while in the forest. And that's why we got Swamp Dweller to remind us of all of this. Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another spooky story. He kicks off hour number 3 of every show, Monday through Friday night. If you want to hear thousands of his stories for free, just go to youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, and you'll be able to hear it right there. All right, it's time once again where we focus in on the UFO aspect of what's going on in the world. Little Timmy Senor returns for the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know.
Hey, Tim, it's been a little bit since we had you on the show. You had an excellent weekend working on out and going out into the forests and the clear skies of Oregon, looking for some aliens. Did you find any?
That's right. Timmy's excellent adventures. We actually got fogged out on Friday, which was unfortunate, but we moved inland and had a little more luck. But, yep, the adventure continues. Thanks for asking, bud. Yeah, great weekend. No. Thanks for the time off, too.
Oh, anytime, buddy, anytime. And Terry Hall did a great job filling in. We did something a little bit different. We actually opened it up to the audience for audience questions for the UFO report. And we had some pretty darn good questions. As you know, our audience in the chat room, they are always very active for us. So we really do appreciate our audience kicking it up for that one as well. But there is some news going on in the UFO world. This one's just over a week old, but we haven't had a chance to really tackle it yet. Comes from Christopher Sharp at the Liberation Times, and I had a great chat with Christopher this past weekend about more UFO hearings coming when we don't know. And apparently whistleblowers are also being called forward. What's going on here?
That's right. Great article here coming from Chris Sharp over at Liberation Times, as you said. And so it'll be great to get some of the insight that you had from over the weekend. I'm looking forward to that update. But just to hit some of the bullet points that he hits in the beginning of the article, I think it's great to bring to light, and I think we should talk about it. And so I'll just hit those bullet points now, if that's okay. And
Please do.
so, yeah, moving forward, some insiders have told Liberation Times that new UAP whistleblower language could be signed into law in weeks and after upcoming midterm elections. The second bullet point is that Corbell's comments saying that the silver bullet is coming, and that's a quote. So the third bullet point coming in is once National Defense Authorization Act 2023 becomes law, it's expected that public congressional hearings will take place, and whistleblowers will have already been requested to testify. And so coming in on the fourth bullet point, it has also been confirmed by multiple sources that information relating to alleged secretive UAP retrieval and reverse engineering programs has now been verified by Congress, which is massive. And so there is now some urgency from Congress to provide transparency, and some insiders hope that any released information can potentially bring people together at a time when the likelihood of nuclear conflict has arisen. And so just before we dive a little deeper, I had a couple questions I'd like to kick to you. And so
Of
we
course.
see here a little bit of language that calls for insider hope and perhaps some insider information. And so can we just talk a little bit about some of the sources of Christopher Sharp and yourself, and how we can know that we potentially have this coming forward in the next couple of weeks, and what some of the language that could possibly even be in there?
Well, I think the big fantasy right now, I believe, Tim, is that whistleblowers are going to be called forward. And we're not talking just Luis Elizondo. We're talking military fighter pilots and military people. Don't think for a second, ladies and gentlemen, that this is going to be anything of the public. All right. They are keeping this as military as possible. All right. They want to know what their own insiders say, and let's not forget that there are a number of Luis Elizondos within the U.S. government. I'm not saying there's hundreds of them, but there's probably 10, maybe 20, if not 30. Tim, I don't think that's unrealistic. Maybe
Right.
a little bit more than that. And those are the people they want to talk to. They want to talk to generals. They want to talk to fighter pilots and military cargo plane pilots of, say, CF5 Galaxies or C5 Galaxies, pardon me, or C41, 141 Starlifters back in the day, or the C17s or the Hercules pilots. They want to talk to naval pilots who've seen things on the ocean. They want to talk to all of these guys who have investigated this. I mean, we know they have gone into and talked with MUFON to grab MUFON's database of interesting stories. So who knows how many police departments are going to be contacted, or police officials. There's a lot that's going to happen here. But I see them keeping it very militarized. I see them keeping it very industrious within their own community. I do not see them running out to a Calvin Parker or a Travis Walton or someone along those lines of civilian level saying, what happened to you, and why do we need to believe you, and why do we need all of this? I just don't see that whatsoever. They are going to press this military industrial complex feeling of the UAP threat as far as they possibly can. Because let's remember, in the United States, threats means bigger budgets, whether it's in space or whether it's on the planet. And they're going to want a lot of money for this that starts with the letter B, not M or T, but the letter B, in order to investigate this properly. I hope that they come out. But the problem that we're going to have, Tim, is we're going to get morsels of breadcrumbs. in any open mic for this. I don't see us getting a lot of juice regarding this. However, behind the scenes, you may see the Wilson Davis documents come out to play. Could Oak Shannon come out and talk about this? Will Eric Davis get any sort of immunity? Will Admiral Wilson? We know he has been in denial of this entire fiasco of the Wilson Davis documents because everybody knows he's under NDA. And if we have crash retrievals and he knew about them, we need to talk to him and give him a wave. And I hope it happens. But the question is, will it happen long enough for us in order to have the information come out to us? If you know what I'm saying. And that's what bugs me about this whole thing. We can have all the whistleblowers we want, Tim. We could have hundreds, thousands. But how many of them are going to put their name in the public and say, this is what I saw while flying an SR-71, or this is what I saw going up on a SpaceX rocket?
Yeah.
That's the danger.
Yeah, you're bringing up a lot of good points there, and I just want to interject here before you get too far away from it. Your point about the Wilson Davis documents, I think that's great, because we're also seeing here in this language that it's been confirmed by multiple sources that information relating to alleged secretive UAP retrieval and reverse engineering programs have now been verified by Congress. And so that is direct dialogue that was in those notes. And so that tells me that somehow more work has been done into looking into the validity and perhaps who knows what else they've discovered within there. So, but that language, we're seeing that directly coming. I think that is a direct result of those documents being entered into, the history of Congress. I think you're absolutely right. My question back to you here very quickly would be, in the wake of the Navy's very vocal rebuttal that nothing new is going to be coming from them, do you think that means that there'll be nothing new presented even to Congress? Or do you think that was more like they're trying to snap down on people releasing through non-traditional means military information? Or what is your, in the wake of that Navy response, what do you think is going to happen here?
I don't like it. I don't like it for the public. I don't like it for you. I don't like it for me. I don't like it for the media, even though they've been a joke this entire time on this subject outside of, and I grates my teeth to say this, outside of the New York Times and that Tucker Carlson, who I just want to.
But do you think we'll see anything new from the Navy? Maybe not publicly, but do you think that Congress will see anything new from the Navy this year with this new report that is supposedly due in a couple of weeks?
Look, the Navy has already stated point blank, we're not getting anything more. They're not, I don't care what Bob McGuire has to say. Bob and I have argued about this both publicly and away from the microphone regarding this. He is staunch that when the Congress signs the bill, the Navy has no choice but to answer. Yeah, right. They are going to deflect everything. What are they going to say? We don't have anything for you. We don't have anything for you. Sorry, we don't have what you're looking for. All right? That's all they're going to do. They don't want to play ball. They've already said that publicly. We are out of the UFO game. Why hasn't the Air Force said anything? Why hasn't Congress put any pressure on the Air Force, Army, or the Marine Corps, or the Coast Guard to say anything?
And do you think that they're priming guys like Avi Loeb and others that are trying to come out and debunk? Do you think they're potentially priming them for some of the further information that's going to be coming out? They'll filter it through him or others like him to debunk it before it even hits the ground?
I doubt it. I doubt it.
Okay.
From what I'm hearing, Avi Loeb is I don't want to say in a power struggle for Galileo Project, but he wants things done his way. And if they're not done his way, things stall out.
Right, but we recently saw him take a look at some data that wasn't his and give a very rapid rebuttal. So I was wondering, maybe would we see that repeat?
I don't think so.
Task Force has another questionable piece of media. They run it by Avi. I'm just wondering if we'll see a repeat performance there.
I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a big shift of UFO sightings and UFO reports head over to Space Force. That's what I see eventually happening. Okay, the Navy and the Space Force are going to play hand in hand in this entire phenomena. I see more doors getting closed. I hate to sound negative on this, people. Okay, this isn't an Elizondo thing. It's not a Chris Mellon thing. Okay, it's not a Sean Cahill thing. Okay, this is a United States Navy and a U.S. military issue. And I see them all pushing towards moving this topic back under the carpet where they want it. Because when things happen, whether it's crash retrievals, whether it's ET contact or whatever, okay, they want the technology. They want the toys. Mm-hmm. They don't want Tim or Dave or our friends in the UK or France or Australia or wherever in this planet. They don't want us to have those toys.
Right.
Until they say we can have them.
And I agree with you 100% there. However, we even see NASA playing their cards in this game, right? And even recently, I even have a story coming up here. They even seem to have their own strategies at UAP investigations and potentially looking into material retrieval, right? I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like they may be looking into. And so what does that tell you? And how does that circle them potentially in on this new narrative?
Well, I'm going to say it this way. If anybody in your Congress actually had the balls in any public hearing to call out NASA the way that they went after Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, that's what we need. We need intense grilling on Bill Nelson and NASA. Right. Okay, if I was on that panel, Bill Nelson, I would chew him up and spit him out. Okay, and anybody who is in this field who is supporting NASA in their quest to try and find the answers to unidentified aerial phenomena, okay, they need to quit immediately. You need to go away and go back under your covers and never come out again on this topic, because NASA has been lying for decades. Lying. Their astronauts have been forced to cover up every launch that NASA has made since Gemini has been followed by UFOs. This isn't a secret. And for Bill Nelson, executive director and former astronaut, to play dumb on this subject continually on a daily basis in the public eye, shame on him. Shame on him, because he is directly hurting the American and the world public when NASA is supposed to be the leaders of what goes on in space. And shame on Bill Nelson for treating us like fools.
Say what you think, Dave. Gee. You have a strong opinion on NASA, and I respect that. And of course, I'm on the other side of the coin with this. And so I was excited to see them get involved. But quite honestly, I'm not surprised at your reaction, but you're going to see I have a report coming out. They may be looking at this in new light and taking it seriously. And I find that really interesting.
Tim, they've been taking it seriously for 60 plus years, and all they've done is screw the public on this and wash photographs. Tim's got me fired up on the UFO report, but I still love the guy. We're going to continue on with Spaced Out Radio's UFO report right after this.
There you go, Thomas.
Hold on, let me see it here.
Here you go. It does look a lot like my new headphones there and everything.
Oh, I get it now. Would you look at that? Would you look at that?
It is very... I do have an action figure. That's right, everyone. I can't quite get that look. He's got it very serious.
You know
look.
what? You need to learn. You know how you could pull this off? You need to get the scowling Greg O'Brien to teach you how to scowl. And then look at the action figure and think of scowling Greg O'Brien.
That's
That
right.
is, yeah, you could pull that off.
Oh boy, but you know the headphones really do kind of
You got to turn your headphones like this, buddy.
turn them into the back, right? Something like, yeah, now I get it. That'll suck. But Thomas loves to bust my chops.
Well, would you look at that?
Would you look at that? Tim Senor / Lobot.
NASA. You hid that for me. I didn't see anything about NASA in today's thing. You do that on purpose because you know I'm gonna flip.
Well, it's hidden. Yeah, it was like the fourth, the secret story. I was going to surprise you with the story from Liberation Times, but it was old enough to kind of pull. It gets really hot in here, you guys. I apologize, but I do crack my door occasionally so I can breathe.
Want to see something cool?
Show me.
I'll show you something cool. We went out in the forest yesterday hunting.
Okay.
And we came across this big dude.
You're full screen me, I think.
Hold on. Yeah, I am totally. Check this out.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's standing there. Okay, there's a dip in the road. I thought he was laying down, but he's actually standing.
Okay. Wow.
He was about 900, 1,000 pounds.
Oh, yeah. Not to be trifled with.
And then in a different area, we saw this little dude right by the road.
Wow. Do not get between that little dude and its mom.
Yeah, no, the little dude wasn't with his mom anymore. He's moved on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, we saw both of them yesterday. That was nice. The hunters haven't found him, or either of them. But yeah, a couple of moose yesterday. The funny part about it is that big bull moose that I showed you first.
Mm-hmm.
You go up 500 miles above me. He's small. You get up into the Alaskan moose, they're double the size, man.
It's more to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
More to carry out.
Right. Fewer hunters potentially, or
No.
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 They just get bigger.
They get bigger.
Huh. Interesting.
What the hell is a javelina? I gotta check now. Javelina. What the hell is that? Oh, it's like a little mini pig.
Oh, okay.
Also known as a peccary.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So nobody should leave your show to go and watch this film, but can I plug it?
Which one?
The one that I saw live tonight.
Oh,
drum roll.
We'll do it in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Okay. NASA's all up in the news for me tonight. Sorry, buddy. The rest of my stories are all NASA-y.
Thank you, Thomas. Ozzy Rob.
Thomas.
Sweet Daddy Joe. Apollo 11. Paramarv and Christina for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love as we encroach on 19,200. just over 800 away from 20,000 subscribers. Here we go, everyone. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Calming down during the break. Thank you to Tim Senor for firing me up with NASA crap on UFOs. Oh, so hard. So hard. Anyways, if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. With the UFO report continuing, Tim Senor is here. You saw a movie this weekend. What was it all about?
That's right. The new release actually today or tonight, perhaps for some people, the new release of the Varginha, Brazil case. An investigative journalist and filmmaker, James Fox, brings us Moment of Contact. And so I must tell you, absolutely riveting and well done. And he takes kind of a different look at this case and perhaps goes at it as an investigator and literally does some kind of on the fly interviews and investigative work to get to some really great witnesses and information that super compelling. And he corroborates a lot of the information that was out there. Now, who knows how much of it was out in the public eye? And, we just don't know. But this is an extremely compelling documentary. I recommend everyone to go check it out. Really well done.
Tell us the intriguing parts of this.
You want me to give away all the deets? Well, what I would say was the most compelling were that all of the new witnesses that came forward that he discovered all described the same descriptions of the creature that they came in contact with. So he gets down and actually meets some of the people that came in contact with the creature, that moved the creature, some of the drivers of the military units, and gets back to the original family that discovered the creature running in their neighborhood. And all along the board, everyone that came in contact with it describes the same thing. And I don't want to give away what they're describing so much, but it absolutely corroborates the details. And it makes it so compelling that this really took place. The descriptions all lined up for the description of the craft, how it crashed, where it crashed, and what happened to it. And James does this in a very interesting way, chronologically, looking at what the sequence of events were and corroborating every step of the event from beginning to end. And it's a different take and a different kind of James Fox filmmaking. So I found it very interesting, very compelling, and it made it feel much more like a significant case as big as Roswell, but I would say with far more living witnesses. And he has the crash site. He hasn't even done an investigation of the crash site yet. Hopefully someone does. So amazing.
Yeah, this is one that I'm actually looking forward to seeing. James Fox does some incredible work, and his work is really second to none when it comes to branching out and making sure that his information is top notch in any of his videos. And that is something that I am looking forward to. Hopefully this weekend I'll get an opportunity. I'm going to leave it up to you to remind me of watching Point of Contact this weekend.
Moment of Contact.
Moment of Contact.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called. Whatever.
It's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great film, and it'll change some minds, at least on this case.
Is that on Netflix, Amazon Prime?
You can grab it on Apple and Vudu.
Okay. Definitely will. Definitely will. And, James is, like I said, he's one of the premier faces when it comes to high quality UFO documentaries. And I know he was very passionate about this exact one. So good on him for finally getting it out there. All right.
Yeah.
NASA brings standards of evidence to the search for UFOs via University of Rochester. Let's get to the stupidity.
No, quite the opposite. In fact, this one hits close to home for me in particular because that's where I grew up, in Rochester, New York. And so I have family that not only went there, but taught there. And so some of the people named in this article are actually within my circle of work group people right now. So I can at least vouch for one name in this article. And I just found it very compelling that NASA is reaching out to scientists and people that are in the know to get into this topic and try and come up with a ways, means, and some standards on how to record and look for UAP. And that's really what this whole new article that I'm going to cover here is about. NASA brings standards of evidence to the search for UFOs via the University of Rochester. And so UFOs and UAPs have long interested science fiction fans, screenwriters, and conspiracy theorists, and yes, scientists. But now there's a new player in town, and it's a game changer, NASA, right? And so I know that Dave's not thrilled about this, but the rest of the country might be, because although extraterrestrial intelligence is kind of up in the air right now, Adam Frank and Fred H. Gowan, professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Rochester, disagrees with Dave. And so there's simply no data, no evidence strong enough to link them to UFOs, to alien life. Fuzzy videos and personal narratives, as engaging as they may be, are simply not enough to support such an extraordinary claim. So now America's Space Agency has announced that it's convening to commission and investigate UAPs. And so what is happening here is it could also give America's masterclass in the most basic, most important, and unfortunately most boring topic in science, standards of evidence, quote unquote. And so, as Frank explains, scientists have the technology to detect biosignatures, which occur when a distant planet is clothed in a biosphere, whose life alters the host's world's atmosphere and biosignatures. In other words, signs of life. But as existing as this prospect is, we won't ever be able to claim we found life without those all-important standards of evidence put in place. And it's those standards stated clearly and followed precisely that have everything to do with UFOs and NASA. And so moving forward here, NASA is hoping to detect life elsewhere in the universe, and the finding will come with the weight and standards of evidence embodied by the new agency. And according to Frank, the real opportunity lying in the proposed NASA study is not just about what it finds. Instead, it's about showing the American people, at least, how NASA and science in general goes about the business of finding and searching out this evidence, showing people how science and those standards of evidence work in a transparent way and on a subject everyone is interested in. Could be a powerful moment. And so it's really interesting to hear this self-described evangelist of science, Frank, writing and speaking on this topic so publicly and advising on NASA. And so I find a very interesting point here is that the evidence of work is distributed in a transparent way. And I hope that NASA takes note there, because anything moving forward should be distributed transparently. Dave, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when NASA decides to actually be transparent, that's when we'll actually have a story.
Okay.
They haven't been.
How do you feel about an outside source coming up with a ways and means and measures for NASA?
Well, I think that may be a start, but NASA's already blown their own horn on this, dude. They've blown their own horn, and they've been caught with their pants down. Okay. And Bill Nelson, the executive director, really doesn't seem to care. He really doesn't seem to care that there is issues going on, that there is a cover up over 60 years going on. He's
Right.
playing absolutely dumb to this subject in public, and that does us no good. I
I
don't
think
care. I don't care if he went to the University of Rochester to say, "Hey, check out what we found." You could go to the. Why do you have to go there? Why?
well so let me just very briefly interject one thing very important here to this narrative that we're talking about. They went to Adam Frank specifically, right? Because of the way he thinks on this topic. And he's already written a few papers, including, by the way, is his search for techno signatures in the physical and chemical traces of advanced civilizations, potentially among the 4,000 or so exoplanets that scientists have already found. And he wrote a paper and investigates something on a very wide and interesting topic that I think that we should bring up because it may be part of the reason NASA selected him. He wrote and proposed an idea that, can a planet have a mind of its own? If a planet with life has a life of its own, can it also have a mind of its own? This line of inquiry unites what we need to know to survive the climate crisis with what might happen on any planet where life and intelligence evolves. And so perhaps this is why NASA approached him, to come up with the ways and measures. And that's really what I was kind of hoping to get your rebuttal on.
Yeah, but that still doesn't answer the question. You could look, dude. You could bring an entire resume of what NASA is going to do here, what they're proposing, and how excited they are. Okay, that's all cover up of lies. It's all a cover up of lies. Bill Nelson has some hard questions to answer, and he's not answering them because he knows the media isn't going to hammer him on them. Okay, years of cover ups. Donna Hare went public 20 years ago saying, I scrub photos. I watch them scrub photos. Okay, every astronaut from Gemini on up who has claimed to see UFOs while they are in launch and going into the atmosphere or going out into space, leaving the atmosphere. Okay, they have seen this. I'm sorry to be passionate about this. Okay, but if there's one company out there that should have the answers, it is NASA. And they're playing us for stupid on this, much like the U.S. government is, much like the Navy is. That's why the U.S. Air Force has stayed silent on this, because they didn't want people feeling stupid. Okay? And that's exactly what's going on, is they've treated us like we're dumb, Tim. They treated you, me, the entire public, and there's not a smart enough media going on, including Tucker Carlson or whomever is covering this, to actually ask Bill Nelson the truth. What is going on? Where are the files? Where are the photographs? Okay, confirm the rumors of your own fellow astronauts that you're not allowed to tell. There was a reason why Neil Armstrong was scared, okay, to talk about anything that happened in space. This guy was a hero. He got the ticker tape parade right in downtown Manhattan. Him and Aldrin, and I forget the third one. I apologize. Okay.
Glenn.
Yeah, John Glenn. But, either way, my friend, you can't cover up. I want to swear, but I won't. You can't cover up BS with napkins that are already drenched in stupidity.
I know bring up NASA with you is like coming up in between that bull moose and perhaps I don't know. Yeah, that's just I like bringing it up. It's, I believe in the programs. I do understand that there has been a legacy of lies, in your opinion, and a lot of people's opinion. But I would like to think that this new form of search could be proposed transparency, and who knows, maybe we'll see a different side of NASA that's looking for something, and maybe we'll get some truth from them.
You know who needs some amnesty is Bill Nelson. Bill Nelson needs some amnesty so he could tell the truth for the first time in the history of NASA. Okay? Give them some amnesty. Let them bring their photographs. Let them bring their videos. Let them bring their X-15 pilots, the SR-71 pilots, and the space shuttle pilots. Okay? There's been more than a few astronauts who have spoken at UFO conferences. Why? Because they saw something. They saw something that didn't make sense to them, and they saw something out of this world. Look, I know an astronaut right now who may not ever go into space. There are hundreds of astronauts that we have spent, or mainly the American taxpayer has spent millions upon millions of dollars training. And half of them will never make it to space. Ever. Okay?
Right.
You want to talk about a waste of money? Let's talk about that. Number
Right.
one. Number two, the astronauts who do get chosen and selected for certain, experiments and science and flight and everything like that, okay, why are they not allowed to say anything, Bill? Why are they not allowed? Why do they need to keep quiet? Why?
Right.
The fact is, they shouldn't. You've just spent a multi-million dollars. Let's Google it right now. How much does it cost? How much does it cost to train an astronaut? All right. One astronaut is about $15 million US dollars per astronaut. Now you think they probably got what? Couple hundred trained? Couple hundred trained. The majority will never go into space. So you're looking at over $300 million right now in astronauts that have been trained, which the majority will never go into space. That's like buying a hot rod Mustang or Challenger or whatever, or Corvette, and putting it in your garage and saying, no, I'm never driving this. I'm never driving this. If I invested $15 million into a human being, I sure as hell would want to get my money back. This is the stupidity of NASA. Okay? This is stupid. Sorry.
No, I understand, and I'm absolutely, you're probably not alone in your feelings on how money is spent within that organization. But if you don't mind, I'm going to just gently shift into my next article, which is
Okay, you go with
also
it. We have 3
on
minutes.
on NASA. And it's so rediscovered US government documents claim that NASA wanted to reverse engineer alien tech. And this isn't a new document. This is actually from over 40 years ago. So we don't even need to dive into it too deeply, because Dave, what does that tell you about our current temperature? And what does that mean to you just knowing that these documents exist? Because I know the fire is already lit. Let's just finish up the show with you sealing it up with this new information.
Look, I mean, what do you want from me?
Well, I mean, I guess my question to you is that knowing that in 1979, that NASA published something that was recently dug up from its archive, and the paper implies that independent research into UFOs would be valuable for NASA, and that a lot of this propulsion concepts for galactic spacecraft was not only looked into, but field reconnaissance was done.
Mm-hmm.
Which tells me what quote unquote field reconnaissance is and what that entails.
Well, exactly. What that is, ladies and gentlemen, is it's more cover up. That's exactly what it is. It's more cover up to the BS that they spew. Okay,
Right.
We'll never know. We'll never know. They don't want us to know, Tim. They
Right.
don't want us to know. And that's where we get into a lot of trouble around here, man. A lot of trouble.
Yeah. Well, the paper titled Field Reconnaissance Propulsion Concept discusses how researchers were currently not able to fully explain the way alleged UFOs traveled, but that they hoped to harness it in their own in the future. And so that's pretty interesting in itself. It sounds like it was tabled. And so the abstract of the paper read that a new propulsion concept had been developed based on proposed resonance between coherent pulsed electromagnetic waveforms and gravitational waveforms. So there was, in fact, a field reconnaissance propulsion concept paper published. And that's actually not easy to say. That's a bit of a tongue twister. But back in 1979, sure enough, NASA published this paper. And for 40 years, it's just sat silently shelved. But it does prove that they looked into this and maybe even had field demonstrations.
Maybe. But it's something we're going to have to look at. Something we're going to have. And what does field demonstrations mean?
Right. And we can dive into that because this paper is something that I have and I'd be happy to look at with you. But it does look like at some point they were trying to attempt doing deep research into this propulsion concept, quote unquote, for galactic spacecraft. That is in there.
I look, bud, I am the first one to say that you do some incredible work on putting this together. But I mean, in the end, little brother is watching. Little NASA won't admit the truth, and we're all screwed in return. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal walking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. And we're clear. So my laptop, which broadcasts Spreaker, decided to die literally at the halfway point now.
Oh no.
And it says the battery is dead, even though I don't unplug it. I might just go buy another hard desktop.
If you never unplug it, that could be why it's saying the battery's dead. It might be dead.
Yeah.
You swap that battery out. If you leave it plugged in all the time, that's no.
I'm old. This is me alone. Aside from all the other
That's not what we want. No offense to Nicole, but we can't. I need
a little Nicole in your life.
I need to have a Tim Senor. Need to have a Tim Senor Friday night. Try this one. Let's try. For God's sakes. Here we go.
So, one other really awesome corroboration, if you will, from Moment of Contact. When the witnesses are giving their description of the creature, I must say, in my opinion, it sounds identical to Chris Bledsoe's description of what he saw. I mean,
giant grays.
Well, yeah, they're kind of like greasy or glassy or like almost transparent, but big red eyes, right? Which is what Chris, I guess, had seen as well in his description. He says they had red eyes. And in this Varginha, Brazil, famously, they had these big red eyes. And all of the witnesses corroborated that in this documentary as well. So, that's another feature I found like, wow, that's kind of like, this was what year was it? Do you remember what year Brazil? Was it 99? I can't remember.
1996.
96. Okay. And when did Chris and his son have their experience?
Well, they didn't have theirs till 2011, 12.
Interesting.
Somewhere in there.
Okay. Yeah, but the creature description is so similar. But yeah, really great flick. I'll definitely be rewatching it.
Yeah,
super good. Yeah,
I gotta watch it too.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if this one has your voice on it.
Looking for a clip.
Logo off to Beavers.
It's an American way to think.
Never in my 49 years, or at that point 47 years, have I seen UFOs as part of our Canadian heritage. That is screwed up, starting to crumble. I see it. Can I not pick an episode where you're on here or what? Were you on with the one with Melinda Leslie?
Yeah, I was on that night.
All right, let me borrow that. And of course, I screw up the path. Here we go, Melinda Leslie. Okay, give me a minute. I'm gonna go for a piss here.
Oh, thanks for sharing. Okay.
Oh God, sorry. I'll be right back.
Great. I guess I could turn on the chat if anyone wants to ask me any questions.
Yeah, ask the NASA supporter how loud and proud he will be to wave the NASA flag.
I mean, I like that stuff, rockets and whatnot. Yeah. Okay, I have to go to the show and turn on the chat. Oh, Raz has good advice on how to take care of your laptop when you're rewatching this, Dave. Unplug the laptop, let it die completely, then charge it. The battery chamber needs cleaning usually. He's so right. Raz is on his game. Cool. I never worked for NASA. No, I just... as a kid, visited all those places and was kind of in awe. And I mean, I look up to scientists, people that are investigating real things. Those are my idols. Like, I know everyone hates Seth Shostak. And I mean, I don't like how he seems to know the answers to things that he doesn't know the answers to. But I do like the idea of that project. I got to visit Jodrell Bank in England when I was a kid, which is a massive listening ear, basically. And that's when I first saw that we were massively invested in looking into what was out there. And that was interesting to me. Now, I never considered that they were looking for, aliens as a kid. necessarily. I just knew that they were searching for something. You know, UFOs and aliens really never came into my purview until 2019 as potentially something real. And so I'm pretty new to this, to be 100% honest with everyone. But I don't think that you have to be, a lifelong experiencer or an understander of this necessarily to get in on it. It's never too late, and I think that everyone needs to get in on it, whether you have a history or not, or you've seen something or not. You need to get informed, right? And I don't think necessarily our government is the best source. I think that shows like Dave's and others that have people that are kind of on the front lines of what's actually happening and the truth, so you're not left in that truth embargo. The truth and perhaps the science itself, doing some research. Those are the people that you really want to be looking for, to seek any kind of information, just because there's no answers. Definitely. In my research, definitely no answers, frustratingly. The minute I think something else comes along and proves that completely wrong. And then I show it to my peers and they're like, yeah, so it's frustrating. But I do think that NASA and big, investors need to get in on this. And it's tough because you've always got to wonder about the motivation of that organization, and hopefully they're looking for the truth, not funding. That's tough. That's really tough. And we know that history has shown that this topic has been used for black budget programs, which is incredibly frustrating to people that know that this is a reality. Now, the fact that NASA is looking into reverse technology again just tells me that they perhaps are looking at that initial report that they had 40 years ago, and they were like, we couldn't understand that technology then. Let's pull it back out and see if we can reinvestigate it. And we know that not only does our government and our military not like talking about things that they don't know the answer to. NASA is obviously an extension of the Air Force, and so we can expect the same from them. And so even if they're sitting on heaps of evidence, we're not going to hear anything from them until they can, have something that can be explained or collate or, researched, something that can be shown as evidence to one way or the other. Now, the frustrating side comes when they just show you the stuff that's mundane, right? And they're like, look, all of this is just mundane. And they're keeping the good stuff behind closed doors, which we know. And in fact, Dave comes in at a perfect time here. Dave, can you hear me okay? And so when Dave and I were together one time, we were actually shown photographs from NASA, and we can talk about this. But they were definitely photos I'd never seen before. And we have talked about it publicly. But we know that it's something that wasn't shown publicly ever, right? And it was interesting because not only was it photographed by our astronauts on the moon, but it was also photographed by an astronaut up in the pod from the perspective of the astronaut looking through the window of the pod that was orbiting the moon. So we have two photographs of the same object, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
LA went and put their logos that they were their video.
Some of the information, which also tells me that must have been frustrating.
Volunteering is something that's very important.
It would be easier because the only plants would be brush and some ferns.
Yeah. And just so that our audience knows, like, I am definitely somebody that walks the line, because I have definitely seen things that I know are not ours. So you're talking to someone that just is really trying to prove it, right? I by no means am going down any line of disproving this topic. That'll never be my motivation. all I will ever do is show 100% of my evidence, right? And to be honest, my evidence shows that there's definitely something that I can't figure out or explain, and it's extremely frustrating. So you'll never see me go down that road, YJ, and I appreciate that. And you know, Joe, I see you guys out there, and you got to know that's
So-
not the road I'm going down.
Okay.
I'm looking to prove it.
I want him to.
Hopefully.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting you.
But I haven't reached a conclusion, and I'm not trying to draw evidence to a conclusion, because that wouldn't be fair to this topic. Really, this topic needs somebody neutral to just draw evidence together and just show everything, and let the people that are in the peer group and the public draw the conclusion. And so I'm really trying to step out and not have an opinion, which is tough when you see things, right? Like, honestly, if at some point I would love to just be able to give you like my honest gut on things, but when I go with my gut, like I've been proved wrong. And so it's tough. It's really tough, but by no means am I gonna be that guy to disprove this or come out on a platform to disprove the phenomenon exists, because like I said, everything that I'm seeing and recording is proving the opposite. I don't want to be like, hey, you know, this is the fact without having the evidence at this point. I'm more of I like to remain right down that middle line until, you know, we can swing it. I know it's frustrating for Dave as well. And so we do have this argument once in a while, but for me to be fair to the topic, I can't have a conclusion and then draw my evidence towards that conclusion. Right, Dave? Do you not at least agree on that?
You got to be fair with it. And you and I are coming at this from, and the audience should know that you and I are coming at this from two completely different angles. And it's not out of haste or out of ill will or bad taste or anything along those lines. It really is, a bone of contention for me. Like this whole NASA thing, I cannot understand for a second how people are not why didn't that okay so why didn't hold on one second, I'm having some issues here, Tim. Give me
It's
one
tough.
second.
Your laptop down right now, so
Okay,
but
so is garbage right there. Like I said, I hate to sound like a broken record here. I really do. But the fact that nobody in the UFO community is pissed off with NASA.
right.
To me, if there is anything that anybody in our field should be upset with, it's NASA.
Yeah.
Okay? It's NASA. And I think it's rather disturbing that we are all, like, there's people, you go on UFO Twitter all the time, and there's people, go NASA, thanks for getting into the game. Instead of looking with logic and saying, hold on a second here. We're being screwed. We are being screwed left, right, and center by this organization that is completely lying to the American taxpayer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean the same thing goes for SETI. You've got to wonder if they've been bought out or who's really pulling the strings. For sure. I mean, you have to ask the questions, because we're not getting any transparent results from either of these organizations. And we know that NASA has a history of silencing their astronauts and disguising their photographs and not coming clean on the truth. Around the same time that Blue Book was happening, the Air Force was being created, and things were happening in Roswell. You know, it's all the same sort of connection. You know, things happened, our governments didn't know how to deal with it, and so they scrambled to cover it up and try to silence things, and continue to. And obviously now the narrative is getting a little out of their hands because independent organizations are taking this subject into their own hands and then distributing it to the public, you know. And so you know, guys like Ben Hansen who just have a case and he just distributes the information as quickly and as transparently as he can, those are the guys to be following, because they're bringing you evidence, right? Undeniable, inscrutable evidence of something.
Tim, let me ask you this, okay? Because we do come from different sides of the spectrum here, okay? And it is one out of much respect, okay? But how much more evidence do we need? Okay? Look, I love what you're doing, okay? I think it's great. I think you're trying to do with civilians what many in the scientific community are doing, and you're doing it on a civilian level. Okay? And I'm all for that. Okay? I really am. I'm not shooting down what you're doing whatsoever. Okay? But realistically, how much more evidence do we need? Okay? I don't think we need Tim Senor, uh, lack of a better term, running. I don't want to use the term wasting time because I don't think you're wasting time. Okay. But I sure as hell don't think that you are using your time to your advantage when the evidence is already there. You're getting new evidence, yes. Okay. You're getting clear cut evidence with the latest technology that we may not have ever seen. That's a good thing. Okay. But how much more evidence do we need, considering the fact that the government isn't going to listen to Tim Senor?
Bingo.
Or
No.
they're not going to listen to anybody on the Discovery Channel or History Channel or A&E or whomever. Okay?
Right.
This is the fallout that I have with what is going on. It isn't the people involved. It's the lies and the manipulation that we continually are said. We don't need any more UFO videos clouding up YouTube because there's only two
Agree.
channels out there that are making money off of it.
I agree.
Maybe
So
three.
let me just kind of reestablish kind of what I mean, because so what I'm doing isn't exactly like everything else. So the team I'm working with, we're preparing new data that's going to be corroborated by the right people. It includes radar data and things like that. And we're taking that mass of information that we collect over 365 days, and that will be it'll be half of what we're presenting to Congress. And so we're going to have a representative who I'm not able to tell names on at any of this yet, but we have somebody else presenting to Congress our data. And along with our data, they'll be presenting historical data. And so that historical data is also being put together by a separate group.
And once again, I appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate your work that you're doing, but it's all for naught when they already have it. That's
right.
what I'm saying.
But even if they have it, it needs to be presented, right, to the people that can make changes. It needs to, and so here's the thing. I guess my question is, what's your frustration? Is it not the right end game? What are you trying to get out of it? For me, I was trying to get something real and in front of Congress that wasn't confusing, and it would be presented by people that either were first party to it or were operators of the radar that collected the information. somebody that had a part that could explain it in layman's terms to the people that are receiving the information, right? So there are keys because they can have all the answers but not know how to present it to the right people. And so part of that is congestion we're trying to delete.
If the idiots in DC can't even talk about the cover-up that's going on, okay, your points, which are great, are moot.
Right. And some of the sufferers of that cover-up will be part of that dialogue. So what you're saying, that's great, man. I'm right there with you. So this is part of our plan, and anyone else that publicly had some advice for this project could definitely put it out there, because it's not a secret what we're doing. So
Tim, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here. What's your disclosure? What's your disclosure?
As far as
what's disclosure to you?
Just transparency on any information that's out there without any BS or manipulation, just data that can be received and understood, and then independent minds can make up their own decisions and then respond accordingly. Just information, just nothing swayed by anyone's dollars, because we're bought and paid for already by me. No one paid for anything except me. So I don't need any more money. I'm not looking for funding. No one can sway me. I'm just very neutral. And that's why it's frustrating, because, I have seen things, but I'm still just trying to present the data without my opinion. Right. And so it can be frustrating. YJ, I do feel like I understand, you want me to open my eyes and see what's out there. And believe me, I have. But for me to report it properly and to be taken seriously, I have to just present the information. Don't worry about me. Right? Because I've seen enough to have in my heart what I know and what I believe and what I think. But that can't be part of the narrative that I present to Congress. I can't get up there and get that would not be, not that I'm presenting to Congress, but I'm saying the experiencer isn't necessarily the best presenter, I guess, because my opinion shouldn't matter when I'm just presenting data. My opinion should never matter. Right? And so that's where I keep getting back to. And so, Dave, I know that was kind of circular, getting back to your point there. But again, that's just the way it is.
No, I understand that. Okay. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I see.
Yeah.
I see a treasure trove of information
already out there.
No, being stuck in the Pandora's box at the Pentagon. That's what I see.
Yeah.
There is no disclosure until that box is open.
Right. And do you feel that's locked up because of how things are classified?
Look, we can have all the fake UFO channels like Secure Team 10 and others like that. Whatever. And I understand with where you're going with it. And trust me, I wish you all the luck. I do. Because if anybody I want to see success, it's you. Okay.
Thanks.
And I know where you're going with it because you and I have discussed this many a times. And I know you don't play on the woo train like we do. Okay. And I admire that about you. Okay. What I'm saying, and maybe I'm not getting my report, my message across, not that I'm trying to change your mind or anything. Okay. But for me, there is no disclosure until that Pandora's box is opened. Okay. I don't, as an experiencer, I don't need any more UFO videos. I don't need any more evidence. I don't need any more science.
Yeah.
Because I already know.
Yeah.
Every person like me already has their own disclosure.
Yeah. And I understand most of your audience agrees with you on that, right?
And we're ready to level up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you put it in video game terms, we're ready to level up.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
The hard part for us is listening to someone like yourself. Once again, no offense. Okay. Talk about, well, I'm out there getting evidence. Well, we had 20 years of paranormal television of evidence gathering, and we're no closer to solving what a ghost is than we were 20 years ago when
Yeah.
paranormal television began. And this is the frustration that many of us have. Okay. And this is the frustration that, people who have experienced the phenomena are tired of.
Right.
No, and Tim, it's not saying you're having a bad idea. It's not saying you're wasting your time. Okay. What it's saying is that, okay, you're getting evidence. Whoop-de-doo. Right?
Right.
And
And
look,
that's fair. But here's the thing, man. Remember, why I started this. It wasn't the big picture thing. It was just to go out and be able to prove it for myself. And I kept getting more gear, and I was like, oh, wait. And then my peer
and
group
what
got bigger and bigger, and more people wanted me to share.
And what I admire about you, Tim, is you're putting your money where your mouth is. Okay? You want to find answers. You want to find
I
all
really
the
do, man. And like, I got to tell you, it leads back to, what my experience was like, and then I live with it. And it's incredibly frustrating. So for people to wonder for me if I'm,
So why haven't you embraced your experience?
Well, I have, but it's so frustrating. It's not a good one, right? And your audience may or may not know that. Like, my experience isn't a good one. And so I'm trying to get a way out. And like, it's not just me, it's my family, right? So that was my number one reason why I struck out on this, was because I was like, if I can figure out what's going on, maybe I could make it stop. And you're gonna make me cry, dude, because honestly, that is my number one reason, is to make it stop.
No, and buddy, I love you for it. I love you for it. You know that I love you for it. But what I'm saying is, I have a chair right beside me on the Woo train that's empty. Okay?
Right.
And it's got your name on it. And I guess what I'm trying to explain to you is, and I'm pleading with you, I love your idea, and I think it's a great first step, but I can't wait for when little Timmy Senor decides to level up in the video game.
Right.
Okay. And that, my friend, if you talk to anybody, whether it's somebody as a mouthpiece like myself, or you talk to somebody as brilliant as Grant Cameron, okay, the one thing I'll tell you, man, is the answers are not in the technology. The answers are on the Woo train. And that's where do you think Gary Nolan rides, man? He's not on the nuts and bolts.
Right.
He's riding the Woo train.
Right.
The Rice University studies.
I think you bring up a great point, though. Look at how, like, he's a guy that doesn't have to really care how the world responds to him, right? He's kind of already set. So he can do that, right? For me to go there that quickly, like, I haven't really proved anything either way yet to myself, right? And I have seen stuff, but it's just, I have a method that I need to finish this project. I only just started it, right? And so I figure I'm giving myself some opportunity to figure it out and present it to people that know more than me about it, because all I can do is collect the data. And then hopefully, guys like Gary Nolan is a perfect example, because what's going on with me is something that just happened because I looked up into the sky and looked into a light for an extended period of time. And so this is absolutely my search, is to figure out why it's had a lasting effect, why it changed certain family members and others it didn't. There's a lot of questions. And so it's frustrating, incredibly frustrating, because I see it play out daily. Okay, this isn't just a once in a while thing. Like, this is an absolute reality to me, you guys. Like you don't have to worry if I'm wondering whether it's real or not. Like, don't worry about me. I'm just really trying to come up with new information that I can prove it to myself. I need to get closer to it, to figure it out. I don't know what the answer is, but that is, I'm on a search, and I'm just trying to share everything that I find along the way with people that definitely know more, because I know nothing. Like I said, I just stumbled into this in 2019, and it shifted my career, and so I'm able to have fun with guys like you, because I don't, I'm not in this for money. I don't need a dime. But I am looking for answers in a scientific way, because it's the only way I understand. And I'm okay with skeptics, and I'm okay with people that don't believe what I'm doing or think that what I'm doing is ridiculous. But again, every single time I go out there, I'm a little bit closer to whatever it is, and I can feel it, and so I'm not really in it for anyone else. No, I do have big ideas on what I can do with my information. I have a ton of support that want to help me do that. And so great. I want that to happen, because I do want something transparent, because I hear everyone crying out for it, and it's what I would want too. And it's what I want. So,
like I said, I'm amazed by your work and your dedication. And I think, anybody the one thing you could trust about Tim through all of this, okay, is this: he's putting his money where his mouth is. He's digging into his own wallet in order to figure out what happened to him and his family in 2019. That is to be very, very respected. Okay. And I mean that, Tim. It deserves a lot of respect. Okay.
well, some people think I'm nuts, and I'm okay with that too. Like I said, I mean, it's a bumpy road, bud, but thank you for saying that. It does help to hear friends say that stuff.
And I don't want people shitting on you just because you and I are at different ends of the spectrum. That's not fair either. Okay. But what
Right.
I'm saying is there is a masterful uh bunch of information that is out there that we need to get to. And unfortunately, it's locked so deep in the Pentagon, it'll never ever see the light of day.
Right. Right. And I think some of the most credible reports are just what you're talking about. Some of the undeniable reports. And it takes people like James Fox to just dig deep and expose every detail. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say with what I'm doing. Like, you just have to present it in a way that's undeniable for it to get any attention. You have to make a whole documentary on one tiny little thing for you to get the point across, right? That it's real or whatever. So it takes time to collect a ton of information on any one aspect of this phenomenon, because I can tell you, I go all over, and a lot of the data that I'm collecting matches up at hotspots. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to get reported on, right? I can tell you if it's a hotspot by some of the readings I get there. And again, we're starting to know what part of the skies these things potentially are coming from. And so the more independent information gets put out there, with guys like Ben Hansen, also with some of the data that he's getting, we're sharing all amongst ourselves. And it could be the community that has the silver bullet in the end. And even if I have a percent of the influence on that, or maybe someone sees my RV and thinks it's a good idea and duplicates it.
Dude, your RV's fucking rad.
It's fun. And it's cool. And it's not new. NASA's doing the same thing, by the way, except theirs is much nicer. My point is just that taking something that was negative, okay, and making it something positive and making it something that I can also have fun with my family has made it something that I can live with, and I can actually sleep through the night. May not change what happens during the night, but I'm able to sleep through the night, because I'm making an effort and making it positive. Because, if you had met me in 2019, you wouldn't have seen such a okay person talking about this. This was really tough. It took a long time for me to talk about. So, but yeah, buddy, you and other friends have made it easier to talk about. And then me also doing this research openly has made it easier for me to talk about. And it's not the stigma that's attached. It's the actual event, me revisiting it mentally is not easy. Like the times I avoid thinking about it because there's like that mental whatever, that you get from thinking just about it. But anyways, I kind of forgot what I was talking about there, bud. Getting a little late here.
You did well, dude.
Yeah.
You did very well. Very, very well. You should be happy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty excited because we are moving to a new location with the RV. We've got some exciting new people that are going to be in this next part of the project. So yeah, it's not over until it's over. And I'm enjoying every minute of it. So thanks for your support and kind words, bud.
No worries, buddy.
Much appreciated. And so I will see you in a few days. I'm going to sign off now.
All right, buddy. We'll see you in a couple days.
Thank you, by the way, audience, for listening to that little, going over time with Dave, talking about my personal life.
He's a Timbit, everyone. He's a Timbit.
That's right. Have fun, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Take care.
Take care.
Little Timmy Senor, everyone. Little Timmy Senor. We love him around here. Our little Timbit. All right. Well, that's going to call it for tonight, people, because our errors are over and we are able to move the show forward. I want to say a big thank you tonight to Thomas, Rob, Donnie, Apollo, Marv, and Christina for the super chats. Very much appreciate it. Tomorrow night on the show, Paul Mills will join us, the spiritual lives of scientists. Whew. Dave's getting tired, but it's going to be another good one tomorrow with Paul Mills. We'll see you all tomorrow night, everyone. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, hit subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment below. It really helps with our algorithms. You can go shopping at spacedoutradio.com and get some really cool swag today as well. We'll talk to you soon, everyone.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.